Chapter 218. When Jiang Tian's appointment notice was posted on the Jinling Pharmaceutical University's official website, the entire school was in an uproar. Countless people were talking about this guest professor who had just arrived. Have you heard? There's a young guest professor in the School of Chinese Medicine. I think he's only 25 years old. That can't be. A guest professor must either have an extremely high status in society or have extremely high attainments in the academic field. Otherwise, it's impossible for him to be a guest professor. He's only 25 years old. What gives him the right to be a guest professor? It's true. I've seen the photo. He's really young. Could it be that he's a rich second-generation heir? If that's the case, I have to go take a look. Who knows, I might be able to hook up with a rich husband. Yeah, I plan to take this course too. Although it's an elective course, the credits are very high. It'll be convenient for me to graduate and get my diploma. Really? Then I want to take this course too. Just like that, before the first class, most of the pharmaceutical department already knew his name. These days, Lin Manong had been having a hard time. Originally, she had already obtained her doctorate and obtained the qualifications to stay in the school to teach. She was about to become a lecturer. However, her mentor, who was originally the vice dean, had been transferred to Yenjing University's medical school and could not take her away. As a result, she was suppressed by Dean Luo Wen, who had a conflict with her mentor. Now, she was only given the title of an assistant professor. What should I do? Why don't you resign? Lin Meng frowned. Her pretty face was filled with bitterness. Manong, don't worry. There's always a way out. Immediately, a few young teachers looked over and comforted her gently. Lin Manong could be said to be the most beautiful female teacher in the pharmaceutical department. She was the dream lover of many unmarried male teachers. Even some old professors could not help but take a few more glances. Ms. Lin, did you know that Jiang Tian has come to our school to be a guest professor? Suddenly, Ding Jiabi rushed into the teaching office of the Chinese medicine school and found Lin Manong. She grabbed her hand and said angrily. Ding Jiabi was in the same batch as Jiang Tian. She was also Huang Linger's best friend and the daughter of a professor in the school. Of course, Ding Jiabi was outstanding in her studies. She wasn't a student of the Rend College that Jiang Tian was studying at. Instead, she was a top student of the Pharmaceutical University. Moreover, after completing her undergraduate degree, Ding Jiabi continued her postgraduate studies and obtained her master's degree. Now that she had graduated, she had stayed in the school to take up some administrative work. I know, I'm watching. Lin Manong was also looking at the class notice on the school's official website in disbelief. What was Jiang Tian doing? He actually came to the school to be a guest professor. How can a piece of trash like him be our guest professor? Isn't the council messing around? Ding Jiabi immediately shouted. She was absolutely clear about how Jiang Tian had played and abandoned Huang Linger back then. Not only did she hate Jiang Tian to the bone, she was also a little worried. What is he doing here as a professor? Don't tell me he wants to use a high-class identity to deceive and play with Huang Linger again. That's too evil. Little Ding, what's going on? What guest professor? With her shouting, everyone in the office started asking her questions and opened a web page. Isn't this Jiang Tian? His grades were extremely poor in university. Moreover, he studied at the Rend College under the Jinling Pharmaceutical University. An associate professor in his 40s rubbed his chin and frowned. He was very naughty back then. He slept every day in class. The Rend College was actually just a private college. It was a second-tier college behind the Jinling Medical University. Candidates only needed to contribute a high tuition fee to be able to enroll. Those who studied there were basically ignorant and incompetent second-generation rich and officials. The learning atmosphere was extremely poor. The Rend College and the Jinling Medical University's teaching staff were the same. Therefore, most of these lecturers and professors had taught Jiang Tian before and knew him very well. So the welcoming ceremony that Dean Luo Wen mentioned was prepared for Jiang Tian? That's too much. Someone said gloomily. He didn't study for a master's degree or a doctorate. He's just an undergraduate who graduated from a third-tier university and came to teach at the Jinling Pharmaceutical University. Another teacher looked at Jiang Tian's resume on the school's official website and was also dumbfounded. Dean Luo Wen was quite sinister. He had unceremoniously posted Jiang Tian's disgraceful resume on the internet. Dean Luo specially arranged for us to not go to class today to welcome such a piece of trash like him. Everyone was speechless. Other than being speechless, there was nothing else they could say. A bad student who had failed countless subjects in school, skipped classes, fought, cheated, and even insulted and talked back to the teachers, had become a guest professor in the school just like that. Was there any justice in this world? A guest professor is the teacher with the highest academic title in our school. Someone shouted and looked at everyone, waiting for everyone's reaction. Sure enough, when he shouted, everyone exploded. Everyone was so angry that their faces turned pale. We studied hard for more than 20 years, studied for a master's degree and a doctorate, and now we're fighting over an associate professor. But what about him? Said a young associate professor sourly. What are the school leaders thinking? Why did they give him a guest professor so easily? Someone slammed the table and shouted angrily. Depraved. How depraved? Even Lin Fengnian, the most senior and most qualified professor in the school, shook his head and sighed. At that moment, Jiang Tian walked into the office accompanied by Luo Wen. Luo Wen clapped his hands and smiled happily. This is our new guest professor, Jiang Tian. Everyone, please give him a round of applause. He was the first to clap, but very few people responded. Only Lin Monong clapped. He's so young. What's his background? Our school has become a gold-plated place for ignorant and incompetent second-generation heirs. He was so bad at his studies back then, failing every subject. May I ask if he knows how to write prescriptions? Does he know what it means to make medicine? Everyone whispered to each other, looking at Jiang Tian with disdain. Jiang Tian smiled casually and said, I'll be colleagues with all of you in the future. I hope to interact more with all of you. Dean Luo, I still have a class to attend. I'll take my leave first. A professor immediately stood up and left with a cold expression. Oh, I have an academic conference outside. I'll take my leave first. Another lecturer also left, not forgetting to glare at Jiang Tian. Is someone like this worth wasting my time on? What kind of welcome party is this? I'm leaving too. My child is sick, I'm really sorry. Some of the lecturers really couldn't think of any reason, even using the excuse of a fire at home. Nonsense. In the end, even Lin Fengnian couldn't stand it any longer. He slammed the stainless steel teacup on the table with a loud bang. He got up and walked out of his seat, saying coldly, I'll have to ask the principal some other day what kind of ability a certain person has to be our guest professor. In an instant, most of the lecturers and professors in the office had left. The remaining few people looked at each other, and the atmosphere suddenly turned cold. Seeing this, Luo Wenla gloated, but his face was full of embarrassment. He rubbed his hands and said, Professor Jiang, I'm sorry. You know that these intellectuals have always thought of themselves as noble and virtuous. It's fine, Dean Luo. Jiang Tian smiled lazily and said, when I give a lecture later, they'll all bow down to me. When he said this, Luo Wenla and the rest of the faculty were so angry that their noses almost became crooked. Kid, didn't you see everyone's reaction? Can you be more shameless? Can't you have some self-awareness? That's great. I'm looking forward to it. When the time comes, I'll gather everyone together and listen to Zhang's exciting lecture. Luo Wenla suppressed his disgust and revulsion and patted Jiang Tian's shoulder. He then looked at Lin Monong and reprimanded, Monong, you'll be Professor Zhang's teaching assistant from now on. I hope you'll cherish this rare opportunity to learn. Luo Wenla is trying to ruin someone. How ruthless. A few of the young scholars looked at each other and shook their heads with sighs. What kind of academic achievements could Lin Monong produce if she followed such a gold-plated idiot? Her future was bleak. Unexpectedly, Lin Monong nodded happily and said, "Okay, okay. I'll definitely cooperate with Professor Jiang." The male teachers were all stunned. However, when they thought about it, their hearts sank. This kid might be a rich second-generation heir. He's rich. Could Lin Monong have taken a liking to him? After Luo Wenla left, Lin Monong immediately smiled sweetly and said with sparkling eyes, "Professor Jiang, let me take you to your office to take a look." She suspected that the Master Kong she saw at Poyang Lake was Jiang Tian. She couldn't help but think smugly, "This time, I'll definitely catch you by the tail. Let's see how long you can hide it." Jiang Tian gladly agreed. After the two of them left, the young male teachers beat their chests and stamped their feet, wailing and wailing. "It's over. I'm afraid this kid will snatch Professor Lin away." Yeah, an undergraduate student can be a visiting professor. How rich must his family be? He must be a rich second-generation heir. Professor Lin definitely can't resist his charm. No, it should be the charm of money. Sigh, I didn't expect Professor Lin to be unable to resist the temptation of money. At that moment, Ding Jiabi looked at a handsome young man and said coquettishly, "Li Linxian, you're in danger." Li Linxian graduated from Huaxia Medical University and had received guidance from the Red Wall Imperial Physician. His academic standards were high, and he had produced several important papers as a doctoral student. Now, he was an associate professor and had hopes of becoming a professor before the age of 30. In the traditional Chinese medicine school, he and Lin Monong were a match made in heaven. But now that Lin Monong was so enthusiastic about Jiang Tian, Ding Jiabi immediately began to worry for him. Who does he think he is? I won't let him stay in the Chinese medicine school. Li Linchuan's face darkened, and his eyes emitted deep resentment. He then left after saying those words. Ding Jiabi smiled smugly and waved her fist behind his back. She said coquettishly, "Professor Li, do your best. I'll wait for you to show your academic standards and beat him until he's looking for his teeth on the ground." Chapter 219. At this moment, Jiang Tian was accompanied by Lin Monong to an independent office on the 5th floor of the administration building of the School of Chinese Medicine. The office was large, more than 100 square meters. It was luxuriously decorated, with clean windows and a variety of office facilities. "Professor Lin, do you still remember Huang Linger?" Jiang Tian sat down on the sofa and asked calmly. "Of course." Lin Monong was slightly stunned and a little unnatural. He forced a smile and said, "She's the daughter of Associate Professor Huang Zhihui. Moreover, I taught her several courses when she was studying in the Pharmaceutical University." "How is she now?" Jiang Tian asked. "After that incident, she took a year off because of depression. Now she's studying again. She's in her 4th year now." Lin Monong sighed and said, "This is a small gift for her. Don't tell her it's from me." Jiang Tian took out a protective jade talisman. "It's rare for you to have such thoughts." Lin Monong took it and was silent for a moment. Then he asked tentatively, "Do you still want to be with her?" "Of course not." Jiang Tian smiled faintly and said, "I'm already married." "Huh? You're already married?" Lin Monong was suddenly disappointed. He forced a smile and said, "Well, that's good. This way, you won't hurt her." Jiang Tian's class in the Pharmaceutical University was held once a week. It was taught to all the students in the Pharmaceutical University, not limited to undergraduate students, graduate students, or doctoral students. In fact, Jiang Tian also wanted to find some talents in the process of teaching. Just like that, Jiang Tian's teaching position in the Pharmaceutical University was confirmed. Jiang Tian took away all of Huang Zhihui's papers and experimental data and began to study how to combine his academic achievements in the modernization of Chinese medicine with his knowledge of alchemy and pharmacy. Leaving Jinling University, Jiang Tian began to drive a Passat that he took from his mother. He strolled around Jinling, looking for a suitable medicine field for large-scale cultivation of elixirs. In fact, Shenong School had set up a spirit gathering array, and Shenong School could provide a lot of medicinal materials. However, Jiang Tian still wanted to cultivate some of the core medicinal materials himself. Searching along the way, Jiang Tian turned to Mount Fulong, which was 3 kilometers to the west of Jinling. It was near the Tangshan hot spring, and his heart skipped a beat. Hiding the wind and gathering the water, the 4 seasons are as warm as spring. The earth contains the spiritual energy of the earth veins, it can be used greatly. Standing at the peak of Mount Fulong, Jiang Tian narrowed his eyes and carefully observed the terrain. The spiritual qi here was so abundant that it was even higher than the number 1 King's Villa near Lion Peak and Embroidery Lake. The spiritual qi in the earth vein covered an area of several hundred acres. It was definitely enough to set up a super formation and a medicinal field. Back at the villa, Jiang Tian saw his mother and immediately asked, "Mom, can we buy that piece of land on Tiger Subdue Mountain?" After returning to Jinling, Jiang Tian lived in his mother's mansion. Yi Ziwei also lived there for the convenience of her work. "Why do you want to buy that?" "Our family isn't in the real estate business," Zhang Wanqing asked, not knowing the reason. "I want to turn that place into a medicinal field." Jiang Tian said, "It will be the base of the Medicine King organization." "That piece of land is a hot potato." Zhang Wanqing smiled bitterly. "Do you know that the tycoon of Jinling, Nie Zhanghai, is also eyeing that piece of land?" The Tangshan hot spring was originally one of the 4 sacred hot springs in Huaxia. Since the Southern Dynasty, generations of officials and dignitaries loved to build villas and bathe there. It was said that during the Northern and Southern dynasties, there was an empress who used the spring water to treat her skin disease and was named the sacred spring by the emperor. In modern times, Jiang Gong loved this place so much that he built the Tao Hut villa for Jiang Gong and Madame Mei Ling's exclusive hot spring villa. Until now, many people had their eyes on that piece of land. Whether it was to build villas or commercial complexes, they would definitely make a lot of money. "The Nie family and I are really fated," Jiang Tian's eyes narrowed, and a murderous look appeared in his eyes. Other than the Qin family and the Sun family, there were 3 big clans that had attacked the Jiang family back then. The other one was the Nie family. In his previous life, Nie Zhanghai's son, Nie Mingyuan, had tried his best to get in touch with Yi Ziwei and found out a lot of trade secrets, which became the most vicious weapon to attack the Jiang family. The Nie family could be said to be the most hidden enemy. For a long time, Nie Mingyuan had appeared as Yi Ziwei's suitor. Who would have thought that he had the ambition to take over the Medicine King organization from the beginning? Combined with the information he obtained in this life, Jiang Tian also understood. It turned out that Nie Feng, who had violated Huang Linger, was also the younger brother of Nie Zhanghai's youngest son, Nie Mingyuan. Enemies are bound to meet. Yes, Nie Zhanghai is very powerful and can be ranked in the top 5 in Jinling. He can suppress the Sun family of Dynasty Real Estate and the Qin family of 100 Herb Hall. Zhang Wanqing said gently. Moreover, he has a good relationship with the Qin family and the Sun family. The 3 families are already in a business alliance, and he and the head of the Sun family, Sun Lingyun, are in-laws. The Sun family owns one of the top clubs in Jinling, the Qingyun Society, but in the end, they are just working for Nie Zhanghai. Half of the real estate projects in Jinling are invested by Nie Zhanghai Real Estate, and the Sun family's Dynasty Real Estate is in charge of construction and construction. The Jinling government had once auctioned this piece of land according to the auction system, but countless rich people and capital had their eyes on it, and it had been auctioned at a sky-high price of 100,000 yuan per square meter. However, Nie Zhanghai was unwilling to bid at a high price, so he suppressed all the rich people, and now no one dared to bid at all. The Jinling government was also unwilling to sell it to Nie Zhanghai at a low price. For a time, this piece of land was suspended, and it was in a deadlock. After saying all this, Zhang Wanqing said, I know that you have the support of many rich people and don't lack money, but the Jiang family has just settled down, so we shouldn't attack so quickly. Nie Zhanghai isn't easy to deal with, and his two sons aren't easy to deal with either. Nie Mingyuan's scheming and resourceful, while Nie Feng is the vice president of the Clear Sky Association. He's vicious and merciless, and he's willing to do anything to destroy his opponents. Mom, if we want to revive the Medicine King group in the shortest time possible, we have to get this piece of land. How could Jiang Tian care about a small character like Nie Zhanghai? He snorted coldly and said, if 2 billion yuan is not enough, I will transfer funds from Lingnan. Just buy it. Nie Zhanghai is a big shot in the eyes of ordinary people, but in my eyes, he is just an ant. Jiang Tian's simple words made Zhang Wanqing's blood boil. She smiled and said, all right, little Tian, I'll listen to you. Now that you have the central government's support, are you still afraid of a small Nie Zhanghai? If he dares to do anything, he will be courting death. However, Mom is right. Nie Mingyuan is sinister and cunning. It seems that I still have to find time to remind Sister Ziwei, lest she falls into eternal damnation. Jiang Tian let out a long sigh. In the next few days, Jiang Tian's days were very peaceful. He had already obtained the survey data of Mount Fulong and was thinking about the plan to set up the array. Sometimes, he would meet Huang Zhihui and the two would talk through the night. Jiang Tian would tell him about his design concept of the cauldron and let him use modern materials to make the reaction cauldron. At this time, the Jinling Pharmaceutical University was surging with undercurrents because Jiang Tian's first public lecture was about to begin. With Luo Wen fanning the flames, it could be said that the entire Jinling Pharmaceutical University was now praising Jiang Tian, the fake professor. Many students who chose this course complained and regretted it after they found out about Jiang Tian's background. The ones who had the most intense reaction were the professors and scholars. They were all secretly holding back their anger and wanted to embarrass Jiang Tian. Jiabi, I didn't choose this course. Why do you have to make me listen? In the shade on the side of the lecture hall, Huang Linger, who was wearing a short red trench coat, said with a gloomy face. Huang Linger was only 19 years old this year, but she already looked mature and quite charming. She was tall and slender, and her tight sweater wrapped around her exquisite curves. Her hair was tied up in a cute bun, making her neck look unusually slender and white. She didn't wear any makeup, but her pretty face looked even more beautiful. Her eyebrows were lively and her temperament was pure as if she didn't belong to this world. In particular, there was a hint of melancholy between her eyebrows. She was like Sister Lin in the Grand View Garden, delicate and timid. It was unforgettable and pitiful. I heard that this professor is very young and very famous, so I'm here to take you to listen. Ding Jiabi was already 26 years old and had been working for 3 years. Her clothes were relatively mature, and her makeup was exquisite. It could be said that she was enchanting. Along the way, the two women could be said to be the most beautiful scenery on campus, attracting the attention of many boys. Many boys turned their heads to look at them and bumped into trees. You're still lying to me. It's clearly his class. Huang Linger's heart throbbed, and she felt uneasy. The more hatred one had, the deeper one's love would be. Huang Linger didn't know why Jiang Tian suddenly appeared and even found her father. Could it be that he still wanted to keep her as his mistress? Perhaps her motives for being together with Jiang Tian back then weren't pure, but that was also her first relationship in this life. That Christmas Eve, she thought it was so beautiful, but when she recalled it later, it was so cruel. Soon, they arrived at the lecture hall. The eyes of many boys in the front row immediately lit up, and they gave up their seats. This kind of girl was always relatively easy to pamper and treat in life. After Huang Linger sat down, she glanced behind her and said in surprise, "Why are there so many people?" Even Lin Fengmian and Professor Li Linxian, these academic backbones, are here. The lecture hall, which could seat 500 people, was already full of students, including graduate students and doctoral students. In fact, There were even some famous old professors and school leaders sitting in the back row. Heh! Haven't you always been thinking about him? This time, I'll let you see what kind of trash he is. Ding Jiabi snorted in her heart, but she smiled sweetly and said, his standards are probably very high, so everyone wants to come and learn from him. Sigh, he's finished. It's good enough that he came to invest in the laboratory. Why did he have to be a guest professor? The students and teachers here are very difficult to deal with. A trace of worry flashed through Huang Linger's heart. Chapter 220. She knew that Jiang Tian's studies were poor and that he had to rely on her to pass his exams. If he did not teach well, wouldn't he embarrass himself? The next moment, she secretly despised herself. He was such a detestable person, yet she was worried about him. She must be crazy. A moment later, Jiang Tian walked into the classroom and walked up to the podium. The first thing he sensed was spirit qi. With a sweep of his divine perception, he saw everything. His deep gaze landed on Huang Linger's wrist. There used to be layers of scars there, but now it was wrapped in a silk handkerchief, and the protective jade talisman was wrapped in the handkerchief. Jiang Tian felt gratified in his heart. He had never thought of rekindling old feelings, but at least this way, she would not be hurt. But at this moment, there was a commotion below the podium. This is our guest professor. He looks younger than the photo. Yeah, he's too young. Tisk tsk, what can such a young person say? I'm regretting enrolling in this class. Many students whispered to each other and discussed animatedly. For a moment, the scene was in a mess and could not be suppressed. Back then, I was in the same batch as him. I know how terrible his results were. He failed every subject. Ding Jiabi whispered to a few of her classmates. She was in the student office, and many students knew her. Seeing this, they were even more disdainful. Someone even slammed the table and shouted, "What kind of guest professor is this? He's a monster." Ding Jiabi, what are you doing? Huang Linger seemed dissatisfied with Ding Jiabi's words and pulled her aside. Dean Luo, do something about it. Lin Manong said to Luo Wen, unable to stand it any longer. This class is over. Let's have a lesson summary meeting. Luo Wen pretended not to hear and turned to the staff. Everyone has to attend the meeting. I'll criticize the teachers who are too bad. He was extremely dissatisfied with Jiang Tian, but he could not afford to offend him, so he thought of this tactic. Class is starting. It was just 3 simple words, and his voice was not loud. However, Jiang Tian secretly used the dragon roar demonic sound technique. Instantly, a powerful pressure engulfed the entire area. Everyone's minds trembled violently, and they couldn't help but shut their mouths. In an instant, all the students and teachers kept quiet out of fear. The entire lecture hall was so silent that even the sound of a pin dropping could be heard. My name is Jiang Tian. You can call me Teacher Jiang or Professor Jiang. My class is called Life Science and Futurology. Now, I will start to talk about what life science is. Jiang Tian wrote down his name in a flamboyant manner, which immediately shocked a group of people. Back when he was inscribing talismans, he had already developed a good hand of calligraphy. When these few words came out, it was very shocking. The class quieted down and proceeded quietly. Some of the students took notes, while others frowned and listened. Jiang Tian's thinking span was too wide, and sometimes they couldn't keep up with Jiang Tian's train of thought. Halfway through the class, suddenly, someone stood up and sneered. Professor Jiang, this is what you call life science? It's a bunch of nonsense. Everyone turned around and saw an elegant and handsome young man standing up. Immediately, they let out a cry of surprise. Li Linxian, an associate professor of Chinese medicine. Someone exclaimed. Wow, so handsome. What a gentleman. Appa with long legs and nice hands. Some of the infatuated girls were intoxicated. Yeah, that's the demeanor of a scholar. Compared to him, Professor Jiang is too tacky. He's like a migrant worker. Someone echoed. He's the youngest associate professor in our school. He has a double doctorate in biology and Chinese medicine from Huaxia Medical University. The citation rate of his 3 theses is ranked among the top in the country. In terms of academic foundation, he can even beat Dean Luo. There were even some straight-A students who adjusted their glasses and said with a face full of admiration. It seems that Professor Lin is not convinced. He's going to scold this fake Professor Jiang. I'm looking forward to it. Many of the students present were gloating. The headquarters of Jinling Pharmaceutical University was completely different from Renda College. In terms of overall professional strength, they were ranked in the top 3 in Huaxia. Of course, their admission scores were also very high. Everyone who came here was a straight-A student. Naturally, they looked down on someone like Jiang Tian who was fishing for fame. It's over, it's over. Jiang Tian is going to be exposed. I prepared a lesson plan for him. Why didn't he read it according to what I said? Lin Manong looked nervous and gloomy. Luo Wen looked at Li Linxian with admiration. Then, he pretended to look down and make a phone call. He was happy to see this happen. Speak. Facing the crowd, Jiang Tian's expression did not change. He was a man of few words. You were talking about wall walking, silicon-based life, and that the human body is made up of vitality. It's all nonsense. Li Linxian looked at Jiang Tian with disdain and sneered. You're not talking about life science. You're talking about witchcraft, superstition, and science fiction. You don't know anything about life science. Yes, Professor Li, you're right. When everyone heard this, they felt that it made sense. Some curled their lips and said disdainfully, yeah, it sounded quite profound. Now that I think about it, it's all nonsense. Others slammed the table and shouted, what's wrong with the school's leaders? They got such a fraud to be our guest professor. If he leads us astray into learning and research, who's going to take responsibility? There was even a straight-A student who shook his head and said, Professor Jiang is talking about pseudoscience. It's all pseudoscience. He's exactly the same as those academic frauds who make perpetual motion machines. Some teachers snorted. What the hell is he talking about in this class? It's a complete waste of the students' time. Lin Manong put her hand to her forehead to hide her embarrassed expression. Jiang Tian's lecture was so unorthodox that even she, as his teaching assistant, felt embarrassed. Jiang Tian was not flustered at all. He smiled faintly and said, in 1910, astronomers predicted that Earth would collide with a comet. As a result, the world was in a panic, thinking that the end of the world was coming. This prediction came true. The huge comet swept past Earth, but Earth was safe and sound. This is because. In the front row, Professor Huang Zhihui said, the comet's tail is made of extremely thin material. Its density is as low as 10 to 22 grams per cubic centimeter. It's even more empty than the vacuum that can be created on Earth. Jiang Tian nodded and said with bright eyes, but before Earth passed through the comet's tail, who knew this? People often look at the world with frozen eyes and see some new concepts as inconceivable. A few hundred years ago, people stubbornly refused to believe that the sun was the center of the earth because they personally watched the sun rise and set around the earth. People also refused to admit that the earth was round because they clearly knew that people couldn't stand upside down on the ceiling. Naturally, people couldn't live under the earth either. In this way, they came to a seemingly correct conclusion from a concept that was once correct and hastily rejected the new concept. Now that we're laughing at their stubbornness, will our future generations laugh at us? Jiang Tian looked around the room and said earnestly, let's go. Students, even if it's obvious that people can't walk through walls, it can't be taken as the final conclusion. Don't try to quibble. Li Linxian smiled disdainfully and said, I also want to admit that your theory that the human body is a distorted space and can walk through walls is correct, But what do you use to eliminate the distortion of space? Reciting a spell and sinking your will into your dantian? Do you know how many electron volts of energy are needed to shatter an atomic nucleus? Do you know that scientists have exhausted all their means and still haven't been able to release quark from the confinement of the hadron? Let's not talk about the deeper levels. In the face of the questioning, Jiang Tian said calmly, the tree of practice is evergreen. Theory is always gray. If there's a possible fact that can't be explained by existing theories, then the best way is to forget about the theory and not waste time on it. You have to do your best to verify the facts because such contradictions often herald a revolution in theory. The tree of practice is evergreen. Ha ha ha, show me now and put it into practice. Show me the art of walking through walls. Li Linxian laughed out loud, then his face sank. A sharp glint flashed in his eyes as he said, "You're full of shit and spouting nonsense. You're fishing for fame. At your level, you can only deceive those foolish village women. I didn't expect you to dare to speak so confidently and shamelessly in an institution of higher learning. Do you take these students for fools? Do you take us teachers and professors who are studying for a master's degree as idiots? Dare I ask what degree you have and what papers have you published?" "Bachelor's degree, but I haven't published any papers." When Jiang Tian said this, there was an uproar. "This kind of trash doesn't deserve to be our teacher. Get out." Suddenly, Ding Jiabi slammed the table and shouted. She was beautiful. Be it among the students or the young faculty, she had many people who adored and supported her. With her taking the lead, many people immediately responded. There was a wave of mockery and it was extremely noisy. Seeing Jiang Tian look over, Huang Linger lowered her head and tugged at her sleeve, pleading, "Please, stop talking." Lin Manong sighed and shook her head. Although she was somewhat close to Jiang Tian and did not want to embarrass Jiang Tian. However, her rationality told her that what Li Linxian said was right. This is the biggest joke since the establishment of our Jinling Pharmaceutical University. A lecturer stood up and couldn't be bothered to continue watching. How can a liar like you be our guest professor? This is simply a disgrace to our pharmaceutical university, a disgrace to our school, and a disgrace to all the faculty and students. Li Linxian sneered. Yes, complain to the Ministry of Education. We must chase him away. What the hell is this? How can he have the face to be our professor here? It's ridiculous. There must be a conspiracy. There's a power and money transaction. Many students were encouraged by Li Linxuan's words. All of them were filled with righteous indignation. They wanted nothing more than to skin Jiang Tian alive to protect the inviolable dignity of Jinling Pharmaceutical University. You pulled me here just to let me see this. Huang Linger's eyes were slightly red, and her beautiful eyes were about to cry. She looked at Ding Jiabi with a complicated expression and asked. Ling, are you awake now? Ding Jiabi's red lips curled, and her eyebrows were raised so high that they were about to fly out of her face. He's a liar with a monkey's hat. He has always been a glib talker. He has been lying since university until now. Don't bother with him in the future. He has been lying to me all this time. Huang Linger felt a wave of sadness from the bottom of her heart. She felt weak all over, and there were tears in her beautiful eyes. On the podium, Jiang Tian's face was calm. He swept his gaze across the faces of those familiar faces from his previous life. Chapter 221. Luo Wen was gloating, Lin Manong was exasperated, Ding Jiabi was gnashing her teeth, and Li Linxian was smug. Finally, his gaze landed on Huang Linger's face. Was she about to cry? Jiang Tian's heart ached when he saw this. In that instant, Jiang Tian seemed to see her aggrieved and despairing face from 10,000 years ago. It was as if he could see her resentful and helpless eyes from 10,000 years ago, and those sparkling tears. Perhaps he should do something to tell her that he wasn't a liar. Jiang Tian slowly lowered his head. He had already made up his mind. In the eyes of everyone, it seemed that Jiang Tian was already speechless and was too ashamed to face everyone. Instantly, the mocking laughter, cursing, slamming of tables, and discussions became even more intense. It was like a huge wave of sound that wanted to overturn the lecture hall and fiercely slap Jiang Tian, this liar, to the ground. Alright, Li Linxian, do you want to see the wall-walking technique? I hope you won't be scared to death. Jiang Tian suddenly smiled faintly. The next moment, Jiang Tian suddenly walked toward the wall on the side of the lecture hall. Jiang Tian took a step forward and said calmly, "Let me tell you something. I don't understand your theory, nor am I interested in understanding it. But I can let you see the wall-walking technique with your own eyes." Jiang Tian walked with a majestic gait, picking up his pace. Soon, he would crash into the wall. What is he trying to do? Is he trying to kill himself by smashing his head against the wall to atone for his crimes? A student asked, puzzled. He's just trying to be mysterious. Ignore him. Lin Fengyan couldn't stand it anymore. He stood up with a frown and walked toward the back door. Lin Manong also lowered his head, unable to suppress the disappointment in his heart. He didn't want to watch any longer. He's still so fond of lying. How disappointing. A drop of sparkling tears slowly slid down Huang Linger's flawless, jade-like cheek. With the last few steps, Jiang Tian was almost sprinting. The next moment, there was a loud bang. With a thud, Jiang Tian crashed into the wall. Aya, where is he? Where did he go? However, at that moment, everyone let out cries of alarm. Everyone did not see Jiang Tian's head bleeding as they had expected. Instead, they saw Jiang Tian disappear in an instant. Professor Lin Fengyan turned around and saw the magical scene. Jiang Tian's figure disappeared into the wall in an instant. It was as if two translucent objects had overlapped and then completely disappeared. Then, under everyone's horrified gazes, Jiang Tian's head poked out from the wall. At first, it was a blurry image, but it gradually became clearer. Then, it was his shoulders, arms, and upper body. Everyone was stunned. The entire world was still. Not a single sound could be heard. Professor Lin, do you believe me now? Then, under everyone's incredulous gazes, Jiang Tian stepped forward and said calmly. How is this possible? Li Linxian rubbed his eyes hard, his face full of disbelief. The deeper one's understanding of science, the more incredulous it was. The wall-passing technique that only villagers and foolish women would believe in had actually appeared right in front of him. How was this still a human? This was more like a god. In an instant, his face was filled with horror as if he had seen a ghost. His whole body trembled. Now, you should be willing to listen carefully to my theory, right? Well then, let's start again and tell you what's going on. Jiang Tian returned to the podium and scanned the audience with a faint smile. Yeah, what's going on? Is this an immortal technique? Everyone returned to their seats with reverence and fear on their faces. Even the old professors who wanted to leave obediently returned to their seats. They stared intently at the tall figure on the podium. I just said that humans' understanding of the material world is only limited to a few levels. There are total galaxies, clusters of galaxies, stars, molecules, atoms, nucleons, layers, or quarks. Although the concept of material separability is applicable at these levels, it seems to be too early to make a final conclusion. Jiang Tian said calmly, from the known level of material structure, material entities only occupy a small part of the space of this level of structure, such as celestial bodies in galaxies, electrons in atoms, and atomic nuclei. And since neutrinos can pass through any material freely, it shows that there are also large gaps in the foreseeable levels. Jiang Tian's voice was deafening and echoed in the large classroom. So exciting! I didn't expect Jiang Tian to be so knowledgeable. Ding Jiabi's eyes sparkled. At this time, she worshipped Jiang Tian to the extreme. She had completely forgotten that a few minutes ago, Jiang Tian was still the hateful liar she had called hateful. Huang Linger rolled her eyes at her. Then, she looked at Jiang Tian on the podium with a puzzled expression. Who the hell was he? In each level of material structure, the physical part only occupies a part of the space of that level. The physical part of the next level only occupies a fraction of the physical part of the upper level. Although the ratio is not the same, it should be far less than 1. This is an inference based on the known level of structure and using the same induction method. Therefore, as the structure of material is dissected layer by layer, the total volume of material entities in the universe is a linear sequence of numbers. If the first few steps are in line with a certain pattern, and there is not enough evidence to refute it, then inference according to the existing pattern is the most reliable after all. If the induction method can be used to conclude that matter is infinitely separable, then the same induction method can be used to conclude that the sum of the physical parts of matter is bound to approach zero. Therefore, matter is just a form of existence in space. It is a distorted space constrained by multiple levels of force fields. At the end of the microscopic world, there is nothing. This is my conclusion about the nature of matter. Jiang Tian's logic was meticulous and penetrating. Many scholars shook their heads and sighed with emotion as they listened. So exciting, so interesting. It's like a book from heaven. This theory is exactly the same as Kinetha's idea in cosmic astrology. So that's how it is. From time to time, students rushed into the classroom after hearing the news. Even quite a number of school leaders came. However, no matter how high their status was or how great their academic titles were, they all sat there and listened carefully like primary school students. There were not enough seats, so they sat in the open space at the back of the classroom and in the aisles. In Strange Stories from a Chinese Studio, there are records of Laoshan Taoists who entered by knocking on the wall. In ancient Indian yoga, there are also legends of wall passing, telekinesis, and so on. It's very strange. These legends are very common. They can even be said to be global. Is there such a possibility? Jiang Tian quoted from many sources and talked endlessly. His words were like lotus flowers blooming on the ground and falling from the sky. At this moment, he spoke freely and freely. He was no longer the liar that people talked about. Instead, he was like a great scholar who knew everything about the past and the present. In the end, many academic bigshots from Jinling University and several other universities came to listen. They were completely stunned by Jiang Tian as if they had been enlightened. Assuming that matter is just a distorted space constrained by a force field, the two green smoke and two beams of light can pass through each other because there is enough uniform space between the distorted microstructures. The reason why the human body and the wall can't pass through each other is not because there is no space inside them, but because of the distortion inside them. Just like a curved copper rod can't pass through a curved copper pipe, even if the latter's diameter is much larger. However, as long as we eliminate the distortion of both sides, or even one side, the copper rod and the copper pipe can pass through each other. In other words, as long as you have the power to eliminate the distorted space, you can theoretically pass through the wall. The problem is, how to eliminate the spatial distortion. When Jiang Tian gave the final conclusion, Li Mu was stunned. The classroom was silent. No, I feel like I'm in love with Professor Jiang. Why is he so amazing? Our school's professors, compared to him, are like garbage. Countless girls were infatuated. Their eyes turned into stars. They couldn't wait to pounce on the podium and throw themselves into Jiang Tian's arms. This knowledge, it's like a god preaching. He knows too much. Cosmology, astrophysics, biology, and even futurology. Lin Manong and many young scholars were also dumbfounded when they heard this. They were intoxicated and dazzled. It was as if the bass string in the depths of their hearts had been plucked. It was as if their minds were riding on this slowly trembling peak to the depths of the universe, listening to the mysterious sounds of nature. What a peerless genius! Lin Fengmian's eyes were filled with shock as tears streamed down his face. He sighed with a trembling voice. How is this life science? This already involves the truth of matter and the mysteries of the universe. He felt that there were sparks dancing in Jiang Tian's eyes, as if he was Prometheus, who stole the heavenly fire. As he moved forward, the heavenly fire jumped in his eyes. He was the preacher who brought the fire of civilization to mankind, the preacher of a god-level civilization. Sigh, if he stays in school for a year or two, our school will definitely have a Nobel Prize winner. The Jinling Pharmaceutical University is going to soar into the sky. Many old professors and scholars had tears in their eyes. They were so excited that they couldn't control themselves. I really underestimated him. He's too scary. Rowan was extremely uneasy. Many of his schemes against Jiang Tian disappeared in an instant and were replaced by deep fear. In fact, Jiang Tian's lecture was only a scientific explanation of cultivation. When he traveled the universe in the past, he had seen all kinds of strange cultivation civilizations, even god-level civilizations. If he were to talk about all of them, these people's heads would definitely explode. Now, he looked at the knowledge on Earth like a Nobel Prize winner looking at elementary school math problems. After the lecture ended, the students were still unwilling to leave the classroom. They begged Jiang Tian to continue. There's more next week. Jiang Tian said indifferently. If you want to understand my theories in depth, you can apply to join my laboratory. Go to Lin Manong and sign up. Fersky Laboratory? What's that? Many students were puzzled. Students, this is a laboratory jointly established by the Medicine King Group and our school. They invested 100 million. Rowan stood up and said excitedly, I believe that under Professor Zhang's leadership, we will definitely achieve great things. He looked at Jiang Tian with reverence and said with a smile, Professor Zhang is the young master of the Medicine King Group. This research fund was also brought by him. Ling, so he's the young master of the Medicine King Group. He's so knowledgeable and a young rich second generation. Say, do you think you can continue your fate with him? Ding Jiabi's beautiful eyes were shining and her face was flushed. She pulled Huang Linger and asked excitedly. Chapter 222. This. Don't talk nonsense. Huang Linger lowered her eyes, and her eyes flickered. No one knew what she was thinking. We're willing to join. We're lucky to be able to follow Professor Jiang in his research, even if we don't get paid a single cent. Many students reacted fiercely. This included not only the teachers and students from the Pharmaceutical University, but also the teachers and students from Jinling University and Jinling University of Science and Technology who had come to attend the lecture. There was no lack of famous scholars among them. The students, lecturers, and professors instantly boiled over and flocked to Lin Manong. Everyone, don't be anxious. Come one by one. Lin Manong registered his name and answered the questions. He was extremely busy. This was the effect Jiang Tian wanted. To build the laboratory, he not only needed pharmaceutical and chemistry majors, but also big shots in cutting-edge fields such as materials science and physics. During the lecture just now, he had interacted with everyone a lot and had already figured out everyone's academic foundation. It could be said that after today, many of the top scholars in Jinling University City would be under Jiang Tian's control. However, the moment he walked out of the classroom door, Jiang Tian activated his divine consciousness and instantly erased the memory of his performance of passing through the wall from the minds of the hundreds of people present. It was good that he had achieved his goal. If word of his amazing power spread, wouldn't it scare people to death? The construction of the laboratory was not something that could be done overnight. Jiang Tian was not in a hurry and left it to Lin Manong and Huang Zhihui to be in charge. Other than occasionally going to the Pharmaceutical University to check on the preparations for the laboratory, Jiang Tian spent most of his time in the villa cultivating and researching the reactor. His days were lazy and comfortable. However, when he was free, Jiang Tian also missed Xiao Xueqing a little. It was inevitable that they would flirt and talk to each other through video calls every day. That morning, he ended his cultivation. Mom is right. I have to be careful of the Nye family. Also, after my return, it caused some butterfly effects. I should chase away the flies around Sister Ziwei. Jiang Tian exhaled a mouthful of turbid air and narrowed his eyes slightly. His eyes were as clear and deep as a lake in autumn. After receiving the 2 billion yuan investment from Jiangbei, the Medicine King Group had returned to the main business of Chinese medicine production. The prescriptions that Jiang Tian had given to Jiang Lin were immediately registered for patents. The group's 8 production bases and dozens of production lines were running at full capacity day and night. The Medicine King Group was now rejuvenated. Orders came in like snowflakes. It could be said that it was in full swing, shocking the entire industry. I really didn't expect little Tian's prescription to be so strong. The sales of the month before and after the Spring Festival broke through and surpassed the sales of last year. In the CEO's office of the Medicine King Group, a stunning beauty was sitting behind the desk, looking at this month's financial report. Yi Ziwei had a fair, oval-shaped face without any makeup, but her skin was clear and translucent. Her eyebrows were dark, and her eyes were like limpid autumn waters. Her long hair was tied up high, accentuating her slender neck, which was as white as jade. She wore a black office lady's uniform, which outlined her perfect body. With her perky buttocks and ample breasts, she was truly enchanting and beautiful beyond words. A pair of rimless glasses rested on the bridge of her nose. Her eyes were bright and piercing, but at the same time, she exuded a sense of intellectual elegance. In fact, Jiang Tian's prescriptions were important to the Medicine King Group's success, but Yi Ziwei's management skills were also indispensable. Yi Ziwei had a stunning face and a seductive body. She could be said to be the most beautiful woman in Jinlin City. Her nickname was Ice Mountain Beauty, and she had countless suitors. However, she showed no mercy to any of her suitors. She rejected them without hesitation, and she had never been involved in any scandals with anyone. This also aroused the desire of many young masters from famous clans to challenge her, causing even more people to become restless. They hoped to conquer this proud phoenix and obtain both wealth and beauty. Speaking of which, Yu Chang was just one of the many suitors. At this time, the female secretary knocked on the door and came in. She said excitedly, "Boss Yi, someone has sent flowers." "Ah. Have they brought them up?" "Distribute them to the female employees in the company," Yi Ziwei said indifferently without looking up. "Ziwei, what you are doing is not very good. You are making me very sad." A warm and pleasant baritone voice came in. Then, a handsome young man in a white shirt and black trousers walked in with a smile on his face. Behind him, 2 flower shop assistants carried in a basket of delicate and beautiful roses. The expensive blue roses could only serve as a foil. The red roses in the middle set off a big heart. There were at least 1,000 roses in such a big basket. It was worth at least 10,000 yuan. Seeing this, the female secretary's eyes widened. She praised in a sweet voice, "Young Master Nia is so romantic." "Ming Yuan, it's you. Please take a seat." Yi Ziwei put down the financial report and smiled. She stood up and made a gesture of invitation. She was very conflicted about Nie Mingyuan. Nie Mingyuan was very capable and had a powerful background. He was the young master of Shanghai real estate. His family was very rich, and he was very gentlemanly and elegant. He was not comparable to the average rich second generation. In particular, Nie Mingyuan had helped her a lot in the business field over the years. His suggestions were often incisive and went straight to the point. Previously, when Jiang Qingfeng gave up on traditional Chinese medicine and switched to traditional Chinese medicine production, Nie Mingyuan had expressed his clear opposition. During this period of time, the Baichao group had relaxed their suppression of the Jiang family, and he was the mediator. It could be said that Nie Mingyuan was more than enough to match her in terms of background, ability, appearance, and other aspects. Moreover, if she could think further, it would be very beneficial to the development of the Medicine King Group if she could have a marriage with the Nie family. After all, the Nie family's assets had reached 10 billion yuan. Nie Zhonghai had connections with both the government and the underworld. He could be said to be able to do whatever he wanted in Jinling. However, whenever she thought of falling in love with and marrying him, Yi Ziwei felt uncomfortable. Jiang Tian's handsome face and his sunny and domineering smile always appeared in front of her eyes. No, it's already noon. Let's go to Sister Sue's Banana Club for lunch. Nie Mingyuan took the mineral water and thanked the female secretary with a smile. Then he raised his hand to look at his Patek Philippe watch. His clear eyes narrowed into beautiful crescents as he said softly, "You have been busy recently. You've been so busy recently that you haven't had a proper meal. You have to pay attention to your body. Work can't be done all at once." He was able to display his amazing charm with every move he made. The female secretary's heart was completely melted, and it was so sweet that it melted. Oh, Boss Yi is really lucky. Nie Mingyuan cares so much about her. If I can have a meal with young Master Nie, it will be worth it even if I die. Mingyuan, is it just the two of us? Yi Ziwei frowned slightly and asked hesitantly. Nie Mingyuan smiled helplessly, but he looked very chic. He looked at the door and shouted, "Forget it, Mu Yunqing, come out. I lost. Boss Yi is willing to go out only if you are with her." "Ha, I told you can't do it." Mu Yunqing came in with a Prada bag. She was a woman about 27 or 28 years old. She was tall, wearing a vertical striped shirt, a white suit, and a black professional skirt, which set off her delicate curves. Her small face was sparkling like jade, and her makeup was exquisite. She could be called a femme fatale. Seeing that her best friend Mu Yunqing also came, Yi Ziwei could only agree. She simply processed the document and was ready to go out. Mu Yunqing sat on the sofa and waited a little impatiently. Her clear and beautiful eyes glanced at the man and woman in the office. She only felt that the two people were a match made in heaven. Ziwei is really stupid. Her useless idiot brother is married. What is she waiting for? Jiang Tian is capricious and his private life is chaotic. How can he be compared with Nie Mingyuan? At this time, a figure came in slowly and said with a smile, "Sister Qing'er, I made lunch for you." "Jiang Tian, why are you here?" Yi Ziwei suddenly stood up and didn't believe it. "Bring you lunch." Jiang Tian put an insulated lunch box on the desk and opened it. There were 4 layers of sweet and sour pork ribs, braised chicken, steamed base, 3 dishes, and a bowl of white rice. It's rare. I didn't expect your cooking skills to be so good. I didn't see you show it during the spring festival. Yi Ziwei's eyes narrowed into a beautiful crescent shape. Her eyes were a little moist for a moment. Then, like a little greedy cat, she picked up the chopsticks and ate. She forgot Nie Mingyuan and Mu Yunqing. It seemed that at the moment, there was only Jiang Tian in her eyes and only delicious food. Her mouth was full of oil and she vaguely praised, "It's delicious." Sure enough, it's like the legend, Nie Mingyuan's pupils suddenly shrank. It seemed that he had seen an unprecedented enemy of life and death. A cold light flashed. He had never seen Yi Ziwei like this. She removed the cold and strong disguise of a strong woman. She was completely a delicate and moving little girl. Her beautiful eyes were full of emotion, just like a wife who saw her husband who had returned home from a long journey. At this moment, there seemed to be an invisible barrier that tightly wrapped the two people together and separated him and Mu Yunqing. The two people only had each other in their eyes. There was no outsider. "If you like to eat, I'll make it for you every day." Jiang Tian smiled and looked at her with pampering eyes. In his previous life, he was taken care of by Yi Ziwei for so many years. In this life, he should also take care of her. Oh, it's so corny. Mu Yunqing's heart was sour and she raised her eyebrows. Mu Yunqing and Jiang Tian have known each other for a long time. More than 10 years ago, her father was still the secretary of the county party committee. She was decent, sensible, good at studying, and was also a school flower-level figure in Xixia. When Jiang Tian and Bin Jinshui were still in junior high school, Mu Yunqing, who was already in high school, was the flower of the county government and the county party committee. She was also the dream lover of many large courtyard children. Including Jiang Tian, she was a member of the mighty army who admired him with snot flowing from their noses. It was not surprising. Later, her father was transferred to Jinling, and she also followed. Her career developed well, and she appeared more charming. But she didn't expect that from beginning to end, Jiang Tian didn't even look at her. Yi Ziwei almost finished half a bowl of rice. At this moment, when she heard the words, she suddenly remembered Nie Mingyuan. She stood up and apologized, "I'm really sorry, I won't go to your party." "Jiang Tian, you caused so much trouble, and you still dare to come back? Aren't you afraid of being broken by the old man?" Mu Yunqing raised her jade-white chin and squinted at Jiang Tian. She half-jokingly and half-seriously said, "As soon as you came back, you destroyed our party. You really don't have eyes. Ziwei still thinks about you every day, but after a few years, I don't think you've made any progress. You didn't even say hello to me when you came in." Chapter 223. Jiang Tian looked at her in confusion. "Who are you? I don't even know you." "Yunqing, what nonsense are you talking about?" Yi Ziwei suddenly glared at her best friend. She wanted to talk about Jiang Tian's current achievements and background, but before Jiang Tian reminded them not to disclose it casually, so she could only endure it. Mu Yunqing gloomily rolled her eyes at Jiang Tian, feeling that she had been abandoned by Yi Ziwei. "Mingyuan, this is my younger brother Jiang Tian. Jiang Tian, this is the young master of Changhai Real Estate, Nie Mingyuan, Nie Shao. He's my business partner." Yi Ziwei introduced him again. "Young Master Jiang, nice to meet you." Nie Mingyuan felt that Yi Ziwei's words were organized, but he still shook hands with Jiang Tian with a happy face. "Nice to meet you." Jiang Tian calmly shook hands with Nie Mingyuan, but his heart was already filled with hatred. The Nie family was the most insidious and vicious of the three major families in Jinling. In his previous life, Nie Mingyuan had been painstakingly pursuing Yi Ziwei. He was extremely good at disguising himself as a good teacher and helpful friend, with an infatuated and devoted appearance. If not for Yi Ziwei's shrewdness and cautiousness, being on guard against him, he would have succeeded. But in the process of being Yi Ziwei's external brain, he also learned a lot of trade secrets of the Medicine King Group, found the weakness of the Medicine King Group, and eventually led the other two families to directly defeat the Medicine King Group. Unfortunately, you don't know that after I jumped, I was taken to the outer space by my master and embarked on the road of cultivation. Now, I have returned after 10,000 years of cultivation, strong as a dragon. No matter how many schemes you have, no matter how deep your mind is, no matter how powerful your Nie family is, how can you be my match?" Looking at the handsome and elegant young man wearing a handmade shirt and trousers, with a scheming mind as deep as the sea, Jiang Tian's mouth outlined a trace of imperceptible ridicule. However, although Jiang Tian was full of confidence and regarded Nie Mingyuan as an ant, he did not lower his guard in the slightest. Even a lion would use all its strength to catch a rabbit, not to mention that this kid had some brains. "Young Master Jiang, I heard from Ziwei that the Medicine King plans to build a laboratory at the Jinling University of Pharmaceutical Sciences. He will invest 100 million yuan, and in the future, he will focus more on research and new product development. Is this your idea?" Nie Mingyuan was completely acting like an honest big brother. He patted Jiang Tian's shoulder and asked with interest. "That's right. I've investigated the laboratory director, Huang Zhihui. His standards are average." Nie Mingyuan said meaningfully, "I'm worried that you might be deceived. Furthermore, the Medicine King Group's turnover last year was only 2 billion yen. Wasn't it a little too radical to spend 100 million yen on research and development? The capital chain is very dangerous." "Not 100 million. Jiang Tian said coolly, "To be exact, it's 2 billion. 2 billion is going to be invested in research. Where did the Medicine King Group get so much money? Nie Mingyuan was shocked. Crepe Myrtle, you guys are crazy. It's too radical. Mu Yunqing also looked at Yi Ziwei in disbelief, and then looked at Jiang Tian. She snorted in her heart, this kid, what kind of rotten idea is this? Isn't he pushing the Medicine King Group into the fire pit? Equity pledge, short-term financing. Jiang Tian lied without blinking, and his face was calm. He didn't need to pay back the 2 billion yen. Why would he need to pledge equity? Yi Ziwei looked at Jiang Tian in surprise. She didn't know why he lied, but she immediately smiled and said, yes, now the capital chain is very tight. I'm also worried that we are too radical. If there are financial problems with the Medicine King Group, please help. If you need my help, it's my duty. Nie Mingyuan frowned and said, but Ziwei, Jiang Tian, you guys are really too radical. The return period of research and development is very long. This is a typical short-term financing and long-term investment. Your capital chain will be very difficult in the future. Yes, Jiang Tian doesn't understand anything at all. Why do you listen to him, Ziwei? Mu Yunqing looked depressed. Well, thank you for your reminder, young Master Nie. However, there is no turning back the arrow. We still have to stick to it. Yi Ziwei smiled. Well, that's all I have to say. I have something to do, so I'll go back first. Jiang Tian, if you have time, let's get together. Nie Mingyuan and Jiang Tian shook hands politely. Young Master Nie, the flowers, please take them away. Jiang Tian, what do you mean? Nie Mingyuan was still smiling, but there was a bit of coldness in the corners of his mouth. This kid, seeing me pursue Yi Ziwei, can't help but jump up. He is really stupid and naive. I have no problem with you pursuing my sister, but you can't send such bad roses. Where is your sincerity? Jiang Tian raised his hand and pointed to the basket of roses, chuckling. Nie Mingyuan turned his head and saw that the roses were withering and dying at a speed visible to the naked eye. In just a few seconds, they became a pile of bare branches. He could not help but be surprised and embarrassed. I'm sorry. Maybe the flower shop stored them in the freezer before. They are not very fresh. I'll take them away. Nie Mingyuan's face turned red, and he wanted to find a hole to hide in. He smiled awkwardly and had to take the basket of rose branches away like a gardener. After the two left, Yi Ziwei asked with a smile, you seem to have a little prejudice against Nie Mingyuan, you should be careful of him. This kid is not a good thing. He is very scheming. Well, I found that he always likes to inquire about the trade secrets of the Medicine King Group. It seems to be guidance, but in fact, Yi Ziwei looked deeply at Nie Mingyuan, who was gradually walking away. She sighed inwardly. In the business world, one could know a person for a long time without understanding his true nature. Actually, she had been a little suspicious of Nie Mingyuan before. After Jiang Tian's reminder, she was even more alert. She only felt that his kindness to her was strange and deliberate. You cooperated well just now. Jiang Tian praised. I'm not a fool. Yi Ziwei rolled her eyes at him in a seductive manner. She smiled and said, why did you deliberately say that our cash flow is tight? We still have more than 1 billion in the account. Let's shake them a little. They are also eyeing the Mount Fulong land. Jiang Tian smiled faintly. Master Kong, that night, Ling splashed you with the water she used to wash her feet. I thought about it and still felt bad, so I called Lin Manong and found out that you lived here. That night, Jiang Tian was meditating and cultivating when a servant informed him that Huang Zhihui was coming to visit. Jiang Tian let him in, but he didn't expect him to bring along the frosty Huang Linger. Huang Zhihui carried bags of gifts and bowed to Jiang Tian as soon as he entered. Assistant Lin didn't let me come over to disturb your rest, but the more I thought about it, the more upset I felt. The more I thought about it, the more I felt sorry for you. I thought that if I came over to take a look and get scolded by you, I would feel better. You didn't even splash it on me. What's there to see? Huang Linger, don't take it to heart. Jiang Tian smiled faintly, but his eyes were on Huang Linger, who was standing silently at the side. The little girl's eyes were slightly red. She must have been scolded by her father. He hadn't seen her for a few days. Her cheeks had lost a lot of weight, but she gave off an even more soul-stirring poignant beauty. In fact, Jiang Tian didn't understand why he was such a bastard back then. He actually played with and hurt such a beautiful and kind girl. But now, why did he have an uncontrollable feeling of affection? Yi Ziwei, who had just returned from work, was sitting in the dining room eating porridge. The girl was bright and beautiful. She was wearing a rose-colored striped shirt. Her skin was fair, and she had an elegant temperament. She was actually a great beauty who couldn't compare to Zhao Xueqing in any aspect. Yi Ziwei also took a closer look. Huang Linger. It can't be her, right? She suddenly paused for a moment and remembered something. When Jiang Tian was in university, he suddenly asked her to borrow money. She asked a few more questions and found out that he wanted to help a girl named Huang Linger get an abortion. Sister, didn't you praise Professor Huang's thesis? This is the legendary Professor Huang. Jiang Tian broke the awkwardness and introduced Huang Zhihui to Yi Ziwei. Yi Ziwei thought to herself, when have I ever seen his thesis? Aren't you the only one in charge of the laboratory? Don't tell me you want to send me away so you can take the opportunity to continue your relationship with this girl. Thinking this in her heart, she smiled sweetly and took the initiative to take out her business card. Full of hope, she said, we have high hopes for Fairsky Laboratory. Professor Huang, you must produce results as soon as possible. She then turned to Huang Linger and said, this is my daughter, Huang Linger. This is the damned girl who splashed water on Professor Jiang some time ago. Sigh. Huang Zhihui pulled his daughter and scolded, hurry up and apologize to Mr. Jiang. What are you standing there for? Huang Linger stubbornly pursed her lips and bit her lip. Her face was so pale that it was almost transparent. Her beautiful eyes looked at Jiang Tian with resentment and anger, but she refused to say a word. Jiang Tian thought to himself that she must have been scolded a lot by her father and suffered a lot of grievances. How could she be willing to apologize to him? He quickly said, it's okay, Professor Huang. It's not her fault. Yi Ziwei saw that Jiang Tian seemed to have something to say to Huang Linger. She smiled knowingly and said, Professor Huang, how's the progress of the laboratory? Can you come to my study and briefly explain it to me? Huang Zhihui rubbed his hands excitedly and said, I've always wanted to report to President Yi, but I haven't found the right opportunity. He followed Yi Ziwei upstairs. After the two of them went upstairs, Jiang Tian and Huang Linger were silent. For a moment, it was a little awkward. After a long time, Jiang Tian lowered his head and said weakly, I'm sorry for what happened in the past. Huang Linger's nose was sour. She said with a sad face, you don't have to apologize. Although you've dragged it on for 3 years, you've fulfilled your promise. I'll also fulfill my duty and continue to be your secret lover. I won't interfere with you having other women. But I have a request. Don't let my father know about our agreement. Why? Although my father is a coward, he still has the pride of an intellectual in his bones. If he doesn't accept your help, our family might not be able to hold on. Huang Linger's eyes flashed with humiliation and determination. Jiang Tian's heart was filled with mixed feelings. He touched the cigarette box and put one in his mouth. He didn't know what to say. You should smoke less. Huang Linger subconsciously grabbed the cigarette in his mouth, but immediately regretted it. She turned her head to the side. She didn't know whether to throw the cigarette away or not. She stood there awkwardly. Jiang Tian was stunned for a moment, then he couldn't help but laugh. Perhaps human emotions were so difficult to understand. Even if you were severely hurt by the other party, you still couldn't forget it. You might even have unrealistic expectations and wishful thinking to exonerate the other party. Chapter 224. Jiang Tian remembered that in his previous life, Huang Linge was completely obedient to him. The only thing she would stop him from doing was smoking. Huang Linge probably hated him to the core, but she still had unrealistic fantasies and expectations. That was why she subconsciously stopped him when he smoked. This proved a saying: men and women who were once deeply in love always had a blind heart of self-abuse. Linger, I didn't go looking for Professor Huang because of you. Before this, I didn't even know that you were Professor Huang's daughter. Jiang Tian placed the cigarette box on the coffee table and said in a deep voice, I've read your father's thesis. I think he's really talented and fits the needs of our Medicine King group for future research. I also believe that he'll definitely achieve great things. This has nothing to do with the deal I made with you back then. Perhaps it was Jiang Tian's evaluation of Huang Zhihui that made the frost on Huang Linger's pretty face melt instantly. Young girls always had a natural admiration for their fathers. Even if Huang Zhihui's appearance shouldn't make others think that he was outstanding at first glance, and she had been ridiculed because of her father's research, Jiang Tian's approval of her father always eased her antagonistic feelings. Jiang Tian saw Huang Linger's expression soften and knew that his words had some effect. He sighed in his heart that little girls were always easy to fool. Actually, I didn't make any deal with you. I wronged you before, and I also had the intention of deceiving you. Jiang Tian would rather Huang Linger continue to hate him than have her heart become twisted and lead a deformed life. He said indifferently, when your father comes back later, I'll say that you've already apologized. Even if it's me who should apologize to you, I'll also pretend that we've never met. Why don't you lie to me anymore? Or is this another set of lies? Huang Linger's pretty face turned pale. She bit her lips so hard that they almost bled. Her heart was filled with unwillingness. She didn't know which of Jiang Tian's words were true and which were false. Perhaps every word was a lie. I'm already married, and we have a good relationship. I'll treat you as my younger sister. If there's still some affection between us, you can treat me as your elder brother. Jiang Tian sighed softly and said these words with difficulty. Just as he was about to say something else, he heard the sound of heels clicking on the floor. Yi Ziwei and Huang Zhihui were walking down the stairs, talking and laughing. On this day, Jiang Tian was studying the design of the reactor in the villa. Suddenly, Zhen Shuai came looking for him. Last year, when Jiang Tian returned to Qixia County for the first time, he had seen Zhen Shuai and Tan Guangxiu, his two childhood friends, once. At that time, it was Tan Guangxiu and Zhen Shuai who had told him about Qixia Pharmaceutical Company's predicament. Jiang Tian had also casually dealt with Sun Hao, who had once slapped Zhen Shuai. However, in the past 6 months, Jiang Tian hadn't contacted him. Jiang Tian also didn't feel the need to contact him. Although Zhen Shuai couldn't be considered wealthy in his previous life, he had also lived a peaceful life. Jiang Tian didn't feel the need to drag him into his world of carnage. Jiang Tian, you're too cocky. How long have you been back in Jinling? I can't even ask you out. If I didn't ask Auntie, I wouldn't have known you were hiding here. Zhen Shuai sat down on the sofa and puffed out smoke with a cigarette in his mouth. He looked at Jiang Tian with a face full of hidden bitterness. Without waiting for Jiang Tian to reply, Zhen Shuai cast a sidelong glance at Jiang Tian and said with a smile, You're cooped up at home every day. You don't even come out to play with me. What are you doing? Cultivating to become an immortal. Jiang Tian's head was filled with black lines. Zhen Shuai really hit the nail on the head. I really am cultivating to become an immortal. However, he said indifferently, a pile of things. I'm currently setting up a laboratory in the Medicine King group. Zhen Shuai wasn't a serious person at all. He had no interest in this kind of serious business. He said with a smile, Let's go. Don't be cooped up at home every day. Let's go out and have some fun. Today, our Xixia Courtyard's disciples are having a gathering. As it turned out, there were quite a few disciples of the Xixia County's county government and county committee's courtyard who were working hard in Jinling. Thus, they formed a Xixia Disciples Fellowship. After all, they weren't familiar with the people and the place here. Everyone would often get to know each other and take care of each other if something happened. Jiang Tian, I also know that the Medicine King Group's current situation isn't too good. Zhen Shuai became serious for once. With a dignified face, he said earnestly, our group of disciples works in all kinds of industries. Moreover, sometimes we'll bring some good friends over. Who knows, maybe they'll be of help to you and the Medicine King Group. Jiang Tian smiled bitterly in his heart. How could this group of disciples be of any help to him at this level? However, seeing that Zhen Shuai was considerate for once, he gladly agreed. The Xixia Disciples Club was located in a secluded alley in the Yuhua district. Under the shroud of night, the small courtyard gurgled with spring water. The bamboo forest was dense, and the lights were blurred. It had a noble atmosphere. You're not bad. You're quite compatible with the surroundings. Zhen Shuai parked the Porsche Cayenne by the roadside. As the two of them walked into the courtyard, Jiang Tian smiled faintly and praised. It's not mine. It's Yangbin's. Zhen Shuai smiled awkwardly and said, this kid is doing well now. He opened a construction company in Jinling. His qualifications are very good, and he can undertake large projects. His assets have reached the scale of tens of millions. How can I compare to him? Yangbin's assets have also reached tens of millions. A trace of mockery appeared on Jiang Tian's face. His eyes were filled with contempt. It was only tens of millions. In the eyes of others, it was considered a huge fortune. However, in Jiang Tian's eyes, it was just a drop in the ocean. Jiang Tian, I know you looked down on him when he was young, and you always bullied him. But it's different now. Zhen Shuai saw Jiang Tian's expression and said anxiously, his father is now the deputy director of the Public Security Bureau in Jinling's Yuhua district. It's not like back then. Besides, Uncle Jiang and Auntie Jiang have lost their power in the Jiang family and the Medicine King Group. If you don't make some friends and help, you'll suffer in the Jiang family in the future. Since the old man's birthday before the Spring Festival, the Jiang family had gone through a series of changes. However, these news were kept a secret from the public. They only released a few job announcements on the Medicine King Group's official website. However, Zhen Shuai was originally playful and active. He didn't pay attention to these things. Okay, I know. Don't worry. Jiang Tian patted his shoulder and walked toward the hall. Why is she here? However, as he walked, Jiang Tian was slightly stunned. He frowned and turned to look at a private room. Jiang Tian had left his divine sense mark on the protective jade amulet. This jade amulet was worn by Huang Linger. The next moment, he released his divine sense and saw Huang Linger sitting on the sofa in a private room. She was waiting for someone. She frowned and looked worried. She seemed to be anxious. Jiang Tian, what are you doing? Let's go. Zhen Shuai saw Jiang Tian in a daze and pulled him. Oh, nothing. Let's go. Jiang Tian's eyes flashed with a murderous look. His heart skipped a beat. It's already March. Don't tell me that thing is going to happen. Jiang Tian remembered that in his previous life, Huang Linger borrowed money from Nie Feng and couldn't pay it back. In order to repay her father's debt, she had no choice but to give herself to him. According to Ding Jiabi, it was in March of this year that Nie Feng invited Huang Linger to a private club and forced himself on her in the name of discussing the debt. Huang Linger was very obedient and sensible. She was afraid that her father would fight with Nie Feng. She was even more worried that her mother, who was already on the verge of collapse, wouldn't be able to take the blow. So, she kept this matter a secret from her family. That kind of bone-piercing pain, monstrous hatred, endless grievances, and fear could not be relieved or released in the slightest. They fermented and grew in her small body day by day, gradually becoming heavier and heavier. Finally, the pressure completely swallowed her entire mind, and also completely crushed her delicate body. Later, she suffered from severe depression and even schizophrenia. After a long time of treatment, she was tortured. Finally, on Christmas Day in 2012, she jumped and died, ending her sad and lamentable life. As his mind wandered, Jiang Tian walked into an exquisite private room. He saw a group of people from the elite family crowding around Yangbin, who was sitting in the middle of the room, chatting and laughing. Unlike the Jiang family members who liked to talk about sports cars, women, and fun, their topics were relatively high-end. It involved urban planning, the direction of policy, and business operations. It was not something that ordinary people could imagine. Don't think that the financial crisis in America will affect Huaxia's real estate market. Don't worry, the government will definitely use real estate to boost the economy. Housing prices will usher in a period of explosive growth. Take the land that should be taken. Li Xingqian had an international perspective. I just asked my father to think of a way to buy a few houses in Jinling. I can guarantee that after selling them in a year, we will definitely earn 20%. If anyone has spare funds, you can do it with me. Zhang Yulin was a man of action. His father had been transferred to the housing department. In the past few years, he had easily earned tens of millions just by speculating in real estate. I have carefully selected a few real estate stocks to hide. In 3 months, the profit has risen by 30%. Now, part of it has already been sold. Lu Daolin cut in from another angle. Nie Zhanghai is determined to get that piece of land in Mount Fulong. He has already reorganized the Qingyun society. Now, the decline caused by Sun Hao's disappearance has been swept clean. He is reinvigorated. Recently, the Qin family has been investigating Qin Bo's death in Hubei province. It seems that they have already made some progress and are preparing to launch a bloody revenge. Yangbin didn't say much, but every word he said was important news. He set things right and hit the nail on the head. Now that he was contracting projects under Nie Zhanghai, the tycoon of Jinling real estate, he was in contact with the rich and powerful politicians. In this kind of situation, Zhen Shuai, who had been showing off in Qixia County, was a little timid. He pulled Jiang Tian to sit at the end and whispered, "Jiang Tian, don't be anxious. Listen carefully to what they are talking about. It will be very beneficial for our future development." Looking at Zhen Shuai's serious expression, Jiang Tian felt that it was ridiculous, but he was also a little relieved. No matter what, Zhen Shuai now knew to work hard and fight for it. Finally, there was a break. Zhen Shuai pulled Jiang Tian over and bowed. "Oh Yang, brothers and sisters, I brought an old friend here today." Jiang Tian. "Oh, Jiang Tian is here. Take a seat." Yangbin was stunned. He looked at Jiang Tian, then got up and pulled Jiang Tian to sit. He smiled and said, "How many years has it been since we last met?" The two of them had their arms around each other's shoulders like brothers. However, anyone with a discerning eye knew that Yangbin had always hated Jiang Tian. In the beginning, Yangbin's father was only the deputy director of a county bureau. He couldn't be compared to Jiang Zhixing, who had been the deputy county magistrate for a long time. Everyone said that a father's status depended on his son, but for the younger generation, it was the son relying on his father's power. Back then, Yangbin was often beaten up by Jiang Tian. So many years had passed, but Yangbin still had a deep grudge against Jiang Tian when he talked about it. Most likely, this guy was going to properly bully Jiang Tian today and ruthlessly take his revenge. Everyone looked at each other and smiled. They were all in the mood to watch a good show. Chapter 225. Yangbin pulled Jiang Tian to his side and poured a cup of tea for Jiang Tian. "Jiang Tian, you haven't been back for 3 years. When did you come back? Did the old man allow you to come back?" "I came back before the Spring Festival." Jiang Tian took a sip of tea and smiled. It was as if the Hong Pao, which was worth tens of thousands of taels, was nothing to him. "You're amazing. Don't tell me you're back in charge of the Medicine King group. You're the one who dared to step on the young lord of Yanjin." Oh Yangbin teased. In his view, the Medicine King group was already on the verge of collapse. Moreover, even if the Medicine King group was still okay, Jiang Tian had caused a huge disaster and was now a rat on the street that everyone in the Jiang family wanted to beat up. He was probably very weak and couldn't be compared to him at all. Being abandoned by a powerful family was even worse. He would be crushed by his family and wouldn't be able to make a name for himself. He might as well not have this family background. Nope. The Medicine King Group and the Jinling Pharmaceutical University have set up a laboratory and I'm a researcher there. How much does it cost a month? About 10,000 a month. Holy shit, the Jiang family is too harsh on you. Oh Yangbin slammed the table and complained for Jiang Tian, only 10,000. That's not even enough to pay for my cigarettes a month. Brother, you can work with me. I've taken on a few projects under Boss Nia and I'm earning tens of millions a month. You're awesome. Young Lord Bin, you're awesome. Many of his childhood friends' eyes lit up when they heard this, and they began to flatter him with all sorts of flattery. Many girls even came over to toast Oh Yangbin and threw flirtatious glances at him, wanting to get a share of the profits from his projects. On the side, Zhen Shuai's eyes also lit up as he persuaded Jiang Tian, it's not a bad idea to work with Ouyang. The Medicine King Group and the Jiang family don't value you. You can earn tens of millions a year and let them be jealous. Shaking his head, Jiang Tian faintly replied, forget it. No matter what, the Jiang family is my family, and the Medicine King Group is also my mother's painstaking effort. Working in the Medicine King Group will make me feel more at ease. Zhen Shuai knew Jiang Tian's personality and gave up on persuading him. Next to him, a girl with exquisite makeup and sexy attire said coquettishly, Jiang Tian, how can you do this? Ouyang gave you a good job because you've lived in the same compound for a few years. Jiang Tian smiled and teased, you seem to be called Jingxia, right? You should go. Ouyang will definitely like your style. Everyone knew that Oh Yangbin was extremely lecherous. How could they not know the meaning behind Jiang Tian's words? They all chuckled. Zheng Xia's pretty face turned red, then she acted coquettishly in front of Oh Yangbin and said, Brother Oh Yangbin, look, he's bullying me. Oh Yangbin chuckled as he patted her butt and said, it's fine, Jiang Tian is just joking. But tomorrow, you will come to my company to work as my secretary. I will assign a project to you. Okay, Brother Oh Yangbin. I will work hard. Zheng Xia was overjoyed and said with a joyful face. Using your old saying, the secretary will do the work during the day, and the secretary will do the work at night. Jiang Tian turned to Zhen Shuai and smiled. Originally, the well water did not interfere with the river water. But Zheng Xia wanted to step on him, so why should Jiang Tian give her face? You're joking. Zhen Shuai's face stiffened. He frowned at Jiang Tian and signaled him not to talk nonsense. Jiang Tian, you're a little too much. Hearing that, Oh Yangbin's face sank and a murderous light flashed in the depths of his eyes. Zhen Shuai hurriedly mediated and laughed. Forget it, forget it. Boss Oh Yangbin, Zheng Xia, don't take it to heart. Jiang Tian is just joking. Oh Yangbin, you're a big boss. Why do you have to lower yourself to the same level as Jiang Tian? Don't you know that he likes to joke? His mouth is as cheap as mine. Zheng Xia rolled her eyes at Jiang Tian and said disdainfully, you're already in this situation, so what's there to be arrogant about? She swayed her sexy waist and returned to her seat. Jiang Tian smiled faintly and was too lazy to bother with her. Oh Yangbin's expression turned slightly ugly as he frowned and said, Jiang Tian, it's been so many years, but your bad temper still hasn't changed. Don't forget that you're no longer the crown prince of the Medicine King Group. You have to be clear about your identity. Alright, Oh Yangbin. You don't have to worry about whether I'm doing well or not. Jiang Tian smiled lazily. Oh Yangbin was angry in his heart, but after being in the society for so many years, he more or less had some shrewdness. He suppressed his anger and stood up with a glass of wine in his hand. All right, brothers and sisters, the county government are the only ones who are doing well in Jinling. Everyone is doing well in Jinling, and we're not familiar with the place. It's not easy, so we have to take care of each other and support each other in the future. I'll say it here. If anyone needs me, oh Yangbin, in the future, just say the word, and I'll do my best. His speech was beautiful, and everyone cheered loudly. The waiter also began to serve the dishes, and the banquet began. Sorry, I'm late. At this moment, a soft and sweet voice suddenly came from the door. A graceful voice walked in. She was a woman about 27 or 28 years old. She was tall and wore a striped shirt paired with a white suit and a black professional skirt. Her beautiful curves were exposed, and she was curvaceous in all the right places. The soft light shone on her delicate face. Her jade-like skin was sparkling and translucent, tender and flawless. Her eyes were like the stars, and her eyebrows were like the distant mountains. She was so beautiful that it was soul-stirring. It was unforgettable. At this moment, all the male compatriots stopped breathing and stared at her as if their souls had left their bodies. Zheng Xia and other female compatriots were full of envy and jealousy. There was also a sense of inferiority. Mu Yunqing. Everyone exclaimed in shock. At that time, she was the dream lover of many students, including Jiang Tian, who was a member of the vast army who admired her. But later, Mu Yunqing's father was transferred to Jinling City to serve as the secretary of the district committee, and Mu Yunqing left the compound. After Mu Yunqing went to Jinling University, she developed very well in recent years. Her business was very big, she invested in several innovative companies, and the assets she controlled were hundreds of millions of yuan. In particular, her company was a consulting company, which provided services for big families and listed companies. She could drink and talk with Jinling's first-tier young masters. She was not at the same level as them. So everyone really didn't expect Mu Yunqing to be able to attend their party. Goddess, at this moment, Oh Yangbin's saliva almost flowed down. Compared to her, Zheng Xia and the other girls present were like chickens meeting a peacock, and they paled in comparison. In particular, her capable and elegant temperament of a strong woman made people unable to take their eyes off her. At this time, everyone's eyes fell on Jiang Tian. Because at that time, Jiang Tian and her made a big scandal. At that time, Mu Yunqing and Jiang Tian lived not far from his home. Mu Yunqing always liked to discipline Jiang Tian as a big sister and help him with his homework. Jiang Tian, who was still in the beginning of the year, was obsessed with Mu Yunqing and wrote a drawer of love letters to Mu Yunqing. As a result, Mu Yunqing, who was concentrating on preparing for the college entrance examination, didn't even look at it and directly handed it to her father, who was the secretary of the county party committee. Her father went directly to Jiang Zhixing. Jiang Zhixing was so angry that he beat Jiang Tian violently and chased Jiang Tian down 2 streets with a broom. Sister Mu, sit here. Oh Yangbin was so excited that he quickly stood up, and no boy present dared to grab his seat with him. Zhang Yulin next to him obediently gave up his seat and found an empty seat to sit down. I miss my younger brothers and sisters in the compound very much, so I came uninvited. Please don't take offense. Mu Yunqing's aura was huge, and she looked like a capable woman, but she also gave people a feeling of a spring breeze. She greeted everyone enthusiastically. Everyone, don't get up, just sit down. She directly pushed Zhen Shuai aside and sat down next to Jiang Tian. She looked at Jiang Tian deeply and said with a smile, Jiang Tian, how have you been recently? Seeing this, Oh Yangbin's face was stiff, and he thought gloomily, no way, Mu Yunqing came for Jiang Tian? So, just fooling around. The moment he saw her, Jiang Tian was also stunned, but soon his eyes calmed down and he said with a blank expression. In fact, when he saw Mu Yunqing again, he had already thought of the embarrassing thing when he was obsessed with her and pursued her. However, the past was like the wind, and everything was in the past. He now has Qing'er, and his heart has long been like still water. Oh, Sister Mu, now Jiang Tian has returned to Jinling, and he is working as a researcher in the Medicine King Group's bullshit laboratory. He earns a high salary of 10,000 yuan a month. Oh, Yangbin said with a smile. Oh, Yangbin just asked him to work in his company, and he refused. His vision is really high. Maybe, Jiang Tian also wants to control the Medicine King Group. After all, he is a direct descendant, so there is a lot of hope. Everyone suddenly burst into laughter, and their faces were full of ridicule. In this regard, Jiang Tian calmly nodded, looked at Mu Yunqing and said lightly, "That is indeed the case. Oh, Yangbin reported it for me, so I won't say more." Mu Yunqing smiled. After everyone changed the topic, she finally smiled and looked at Jiang Tian with interest. She said in a low voice, "Jiang Tian, you're very low-key." "How am I low-key?" "Your mother has now regained control of the Medicine King Group, and you are the real crown prince of the Medicine King Group. You are very well informed." Jiang Tian smiled faintly. "In Jinling, there are not many things that can be hidden from me. Don't hide it from your sister in the future." Mu Yunqing took out a business card holder, pulled out a card and gave it to Jiang Tian, and whispered in his ear. "Oh, Ruiji Enterprise Consulting, Chairman." In this regard, Jiang Tian's expression did not change, and he put the business card in his pocket and said lightly, "Hee hee, you got the news from my sister. Humph, you are smart. Actually, Ziwei and I live next door. When you come home, I will cook for you. I live alone, so it is very convenient." Mu Yunqing smiled sweetly, and there was a bit of a mischievous little girl's attitude, which made people unable to resist at first glance. Jiang Tian smiled noncommittally. People are no longer young, and everyone is no longer simple. Last time in Ziwei's office, she saw that he was cold and disdainful, but that was because she did not know that his mother had taken control of the Medicine King Group. Now that she heard the news from Ziwei, she immediately came to make friends with him, and wanted to talk about old feelings. It was nothing more than paving the way for the future and pulling in some business. "You don't want to come to my house? Are you afraid that I will eat you? Little rascal." Mu Yunqing lowered her voice, smiled at the corner of her mouth, and whispered in Jiang Tian's ear again. Her fresh breath rushed to Jiang Tian's nose and ears, itchy, but also very pleasant to smell, like the whispers of lovers, and captivating. Chapter 226. After she finished speaking, she looked at Jiang Tian with interest. Her bright and beautiful eyes flickered with extraordinary splendor. She found that Jiang Tian had changed. His temperament was very calm. There was a kind of temperament that would not change even if Mount Tai collapsed in front of him. She had only seen this kind of temperament from the top figures in Jinling. She couldn't help but marvel. "I hope to contact you more in the future." Seeing that she couldn't break the deadlock for a while, Mu Yunqing stood up again and handed the business card to everyone present. Those who received the business card were flattered. "How is it? Now that Sister Mu is the chairman, the assets of several enterprises add up to hundreds of millions. Jiang Tian, do you have any inferiority complex?" Oh Yangbin drank a few mouthfuls of wine, his breath was strong, and his face was full of disdain. "Who gave you the courage to pursue Sister Mu in the past? Now, do you know the gap between you and Sister Mu?" Everyone looked at Jiang Tian with ridicule. "Oh, I don't think so. Everyone has their strengths and weaknesses. I'm not good at business management, but I have my own strengths." In this regard, Jiang Tian was unmoved and smiled faintly. Some people are good at cockfighting, some people are good at business management, some people are good at playing politics and can rise all the way. Oh Yangbin sneered, "In the Jiang family, even Jiang Chao opened an antique shop and can make millions a year, which can beat you. But what about you, Jiang Tian, what are you good at?" "I'm good at fists." Jiang Tian said indifferently. "Ha, fighting. Jiang Tian, you're awesome." Yes, Jiang Tian's valiant record is that he beat the rich young master of Yanjing, then he was expelled from the family and didn't dare to come back for 3 years. Everyone burst into laughter. Some even laughed until tears almost came out. They slapped their thighs and their faces were full of ridicule. At their level, they were comparing vision, IQ, and connections. The street fights of local hooligans were simply not worth mentioning. Even those so-called military elites, no matter how good they were at fighting, were nothing more than bodyguards for the rich and powerful after retirement. A weak woman like Mu Yunqing, who doesn't have the strength to truss a chicken, also occupies half of the Jinling enterprise consulting industry. She controls hundreds of millions of yuan of assets in her hands, and can drink and chat with those rich and powerful local officials. This was their role model, their goal. Jiang Tian, if you're good at fighting, I have a few friends who are coaches at the provincial sports school. They're pretty good at sanda and kickboxing. How about we find an opportunity to spar some other day? Oh, Yangbin chuckled, but there was a hint of coldness in the depths of his eyes. Before Jiang Tian could speak, Mu Yunqing raised her eyebrows and scolded, "Oh Yangbin, what are you doing?" "Hee, Mujia, I was just joking. How could I really let Jiang Tian get beaten up?" Oh Yangbin smiled awkwardly, feeling very unhappy. What kind of thing is Jiang Tian, to actually let Mu Yunqing protect him so enthusiastically? He quickly changed the topic and said with a smile, "By the way, young Master Nie Feng is also drinking at the club today. Let's go over and have a toast. Nie Zhanghai's youngest son." "That's good. Oh Yangbin, you're really amazing now. You can even play with young Master Nie." Everyone was excited and flattered Oh Yangbin. Nie Zhanghai crossed the political and business world. He had a strong background and powerful strength. He could be ranked in the top 5 in Jinling. He was definitely an unattainable existence. If they could talk to a young master like Nie Feng, it could be said that their future would be smooth and they would have a meteoric rise. I've drunk with young Master Nie several times. Young Master Nie is also a frequent customer here. Oh Yangbin's face was smug as he proudly said, "Zhen Shuai, haven't you always wanted to know him?" "Yes, oh Yangbin, if I can get to know young Master Nie, I won't forget your kindness." Zhen Shuai was also excited. He held the cup with both hands and toasted. Oh Yangbin smiled faintly and said, "Don't worry, with me here, I guarantee that you'll be able to eat well in Jinling. I don't know where Sun Hao went during this time. Otherwise, I could also introduce you to him. I went to Sun Hao's place a few times, but he wasn't willing to take me to play." Zhen Shuai sighed gloomily. Sun Hao controls dynasty real estate. He has tyrannical strength and high vision. It's normal that he doesn't take you to play. Oh Yangbin said. Yes, if you want to get to know such a big figure, you must have patience and sincerity. Yes, you must have indomitable courage. Everyone expressed their agreement. Zhen Shuai, you're really useless. Suddenly, Jiang Tian smiled faintly and said, "Didn't I say that Sun Hao will kneel to you when he sees you in the future?" "Jiang Tian, what did you say?" Once these words came out, everyone was shocked. Everyone looked at Jiang Tian in disbelief. The Sun family's strength was well known in Jinling. Their family's assets were in the tens of billions, and dynasty real estate was even more famous. Jiang Tian was an abandoned son of a declining family. How could he compare to them? However, he doesn't have the chance anymore because I've already killed him. Jiang Tian said lazily. Jiang Tian, you really know how to brag. You're not even fit to carry Sun Hao's shoes. Oh Yangbin sneered. That's right, in order to attract Sister Mu's attention, he even said such reckless words. Jiang Tian, do you know what the consequences are if these words are spread out? That's not a matter of whether you can survive or not. The Sun family can destroy your Jiang family in a matter of minutes. Everyone present didn't believe him at all. They were all disdainful. Zhen Shuai was speechless and quickly tried to smooth things over for Jiang Tian. Jiang Tian was just joking. He's righteous and wanted to help me vent my anger. Everyone, don't take it seriously and don't spread it out. What joke? To be honest, in less than half a year, I'll completely destroy the Sun family. Jiang Tian said with a serious face. Jiang Tian, don't even talk about your trashy ability. With your arrogant and despotic personality, with that lousy mouth of yours, you won't be able to survive here. Oh Yangbin curled his lips and sneered disdainfully. Everyone was unwilling to pay attention to Jiang Tian. They had nothing to say. Even Zhen Shuai was ignored and marginalized by everyone. Sigh, I wanted to introduce him to some friends, but in the end, he made me unable to step down. Zhen Shuai drank his wine and sighed. He was very disappointed with Jiang Tian. He's already so old, how come he hasn't made any progress? The atmosphere was destroyed. Everyone was only focused on eating. Only Mu Yunqing was talking to Jiang Tian. Jiang Tian, don't joke around. If this kind of word gets out, you'll be in trouble. I heard that the Sun family was furious because of Sun Hao's disappearance. They're investigating. Mu Yunqing said with a solemn face. Really? Let them investigate. Jiang Tian's face was full of indifference. How can you be so ignorant? Mu Yunqing anxiously glared at Jiang Tian. Jiang Tian smiled and didn't say anything. What's your plan when you come back? Lead the Jiang family to dominate Jinling. That Sun family, Chen family, Nia family, and other families will be eliminated. Are you crazy? Seriously, talk to me. What's your plan when you come back? Really dominate Jinling. As they chatted, even Mu Yunqing was speechless with Jiang Tian. She was too lazy to pay attention to him. I heard that you came to the party, so I came to see you. You're joking with me, not serious at all. She heard from Yi Ziwei that Zhang Wanqing took control of the Medicine King group around the Spring Festival. Maybe Jiang Tian would take over his mother's position and become the head of the Medicine King group. So she wanted to come and see Jiang Tian. Maybe there would be opportunities for cooperation in the future. And when she first saw Jiang Tian, she felt that Jiang Tian seemed to be a lot more mature and had a somewhat calm temperament. But now, after chatting with him, she couldn't help but be disappointed with Jiang Tian. Jiang Tian was so arrogant and didn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Even if he had his mother's support, he wouldn't be able to convince the people in the Jiang family. She was afraid that he could only mix at the bottom for the rest of his life. At this time, Yangbin looked at the time, stood up and said, "We're almost done drinking. I'll take everyone to Nye Shao for a toast." Okay, let's go. We've been waiting for a long time. This is Nye Shao. Everyone present was very excited and responded enthusiastically. Even Mu Yunqing was slightly moved. The reason why she could contact Nie Mingyuan was because she was Yi Ziwei's best friend. She was still far from the top class. Zhen Shuai pulled Jiang Tian and said helplessly, "Brother Tian, I beg you to put away your bad temper. It's not bad for you to make more friends." Okay. Unexpectedly, Jiang Tian got up quickly this time and walked faster than anyone else. He took the lead and rushed out of the box. Look, Jiang Tian is anxious now. He wants to hug Nye Shao's thigh. If you have guts, continue to be arrogant. Someone mocked in a sarcastic tone. Jiang Tian, why are you in such a hurry? Without my introduction, it's rude to rush over like this. Don't forget to knock on the door. Seeing Jiang Tian rushing over, Yangbin's face became anxious. He hurried a few steps to catch up and pulled Jiang Tian's arm. Get out. At this time, Jiang Tian had arrived at the door of the box where Nie Feng was. With a swing of his arm, he threw Yangbin to the ground. Then, under the horrified gaze of everyone, Jiang Tian lifted his leg and kicked the carved solid wood door of the box. Bang! There was a loud noise. Everyone's face turned pale and they trembled. It's over. Oh, Yangbin was so scared that he broke out in a cold sweat and almost sat on the ground. Nye Xiao, we have paid you back the money we owed you. Why do you still want me to pay with my body? In the box, Huang Linger shrank in the corner of the sofa. Her face was full of tears. She shivered and begged a tall young man with an evil smile. Your father owes me a loan shark. Do you know what a loan shark is? With compound interest, he only paid me 2 million, but he still owes me 3 million. Nye Feng was like a ferocious beast overlooking the little white rabbit in front of him. He sneered and said, I just let you sleep with me for one night, and this debt is settled. This is a good deal for you. 3 million a night, that's the price of an A-list celebrity. Chapter 227. I won't. Huang Linger's face was covered in tears as she begged, Young Master Nya, I beg you, please let me go. If you really want money, I can think of a way to raise some money to pay you back. Don't pretend to be virtuous. Do you think I don't know you? Nye Feng's face was gloomy as he grinned, you were previously kept by Jiang Tian. Do you still think you're a pure white lotus? Hurry up and obediently take off your clothes. You know my power. If I want to kill your whole family, it's the same as playing with them. Huang Linger's originally pale face became even paler, but she still kept shaking her head. Crystal clear tears also fell down. Fine, fine, fine. If you don't want to take it off, then I'll help you. I'm also a gentleman. Nye Feng smiled sinisterly. He walked up to Huang Linger and reached for her collar. Suddenly, he tore open the buttons on her shirt and gripped it tightly. It was also at this moment that the door was kicked open with a bang. Nye Feng turned his head and was slightly stunned. Jiang Tian, why are you back? He knew Jiang Tian inside out and didn't put Jiang Tian in his eyes. He let go of Huang Linger and lazily approached Jiang Tian. He smiled and said, Ha, I know you kept her before, but she's not your wife. You don't mind, do you? What do you think? Jiang Tian paced forward. His tone was cold, like ice that couldn't be melted for 10,000 years, making people shiver. You want to meddle in other people's business? Nye Feng was stunned at first, then he laughed arrogantly and domineeringly, ha ha ha, Jiang Tian, you're really funny. You're just an abandoned son of the Jiang family. You're not even worthy of carrying my shoes, yet you dare to act pretentious in front of me? Your behavior is tantamount to hitting a stone with an egg. You're an idiot. Jiang Tian, what are you doing? Don't you see that they have so many hired thugs? Zhen Shuai pulled Jiang Tian and was so anxious that he almost fainted. Even when the Medicine King group was at its peak, Jiang Tian was no match for Nye Feng. Especially behind Nye Feng, there were still more than a dozen black-clothed men standing. They were the experts of the Clear Sky Society. Wasn't it just looking for abuse to fight with them barehanded? Jiang Tian, why are you meddling in other people's business? Come back, or I'll tell your sister. Mu Yunqing's face was anxious, frowning. Mu Yunqing is more and more disappointed with Jiang Tian. For the sake of a girl who sold her body, he didn't hesitate to offend Nye Feng. This was too muddle-headed. It was simply striking a stone with an egg. Young Master Nye, this guy has nothing to do with us. Don't give him face, just beat him to death. Oh Yangbin was so shocked that his face turned pale. He broke out in a cold sweat. After figuring out everything, he was even more furious at Jiang Tian. He immediately cut off all ties with Jiang Tian. Trash, are you a match for me? I told you to get lost, didn't you hear me? Nye Feng smiled contemptuously. He stepped forward and pointed his finger at Jiang Tian's nose. For a little bitch who sold her body, you really have the ability to fight with me. The matter of Huang Linger selling her body to Jiang Tian was mentioned again and again. Her pretty face was sometimes red and sometimes pale. Tears rolled down from her beautiful eyes. She cried until she was out of breath and trembling all over. Seeing this, Jiang Tian's heart was stung. Nie Feng didn't know that the Grim Reaper was approaching. His face was full of ridicule. Don't worry, she's better off with you. I heard that you still owe her money. If she follows me, she gets 2 million a year. Thank you for your previous training. I think her work should be good. Before his voice fell, Jiang Tian suddenly moved. With a loud bang, everyone's eyes blurred. Nie Feng disappeared from where he was. Like a rag doll, he smashed the window and flew 7 or 8 meters away, landing in the lotus pond in the courtyard. Blood quickly oozed out from his body, dyeing the pond a glaring scarlet. Damn, is he still human? Zhen Shuai felt a chill from the bottom of his feet to the top of his head. His whole body trembled. Yang Bin was stunned for a moment, then ran out of the door. He held Nie Feng, who was still breathing, and shouted, "Quick, call an ambulance." Huang Linger suddenly raised her head and looked at Jiang Tian in disbelief. Her heart throbbed. He actually attacked for me. Damn, you dare to hit young Master Nie. You're crazy. Chop him up and feed him to the dogs. Don't let the woman go. More than a dozen thugs rushed up with sticks in their hands. Jiang Tian took the opportunity to pull Huang Linger behind him to protect her. He blocked the incoming iron stick, grabbed the opponent's wrist, and blocked the other steel pipe. He raised his knee and hit the kid's lower abdomen. He said coldly, "You really don't know what's good for you. Do you want to die?" He grabbed the steel pipe and pulled it out with a whoo sound, smashing it on the thug's head. The thug's head was broken and bleeding. He covered his head and screamed as he retreated. Seeing the bloody scene in front of her, Huang Linger screamed in fright. A thug near her took out a machete and chopped at her shoulder. Jiang Tian snorted and rushed up. At the critical moment, he actually grabbed the opponent's machete. The machete fell on Jiang Tian's palm. Originally, with Jiang Tian's cultivation, this kind of cold weapon couldn't hurt him at all. However, he suddenly had an idea and dispersed the true essence in his palm. Suddenly, the sharp blade cut his palm and blood flowed along the blade. The thug was scared out of his wits by Jiang Tian's strength. He originally only waved the machete to scare people and used Huang Linger to threaten Jiang Tian. He had no intention of hurting her. Who would have thought that Jiang Tian would really risk everything to block the machete? This courage was really frightening. Get lost! Jiang Tian shouted in a low voice. His bleeding left hand suddenly increased the strength and broke the bright machete in two. Everyone was shocked by Jiang Tian's strength. The thug leader was even more regretful. No wonder this brat dared to attack young Master Nie. It turned out that young Master Nie was a master of a generation. There was a scream in his ears. It was Jiang Tian kicking the thug who wielded the machete out of the door. Jiang Tian coldly threw down the bloody half of the machete. His beast-like fierce eyes stared at the thug leader whose face was covered with blood. The thug leader was so scared that his legs went soft. He pulled several men back and shouted, "Boy, don't go if you have the guts. I'll call young Master Chang." At this time, the entire club was alarmed and in a mess. Some people came out of the box to watch and ask questions. Some people called the police and ambulance. Some people wanted bandages to bandage their wounds. Some people cursed. Some people screamed. Some people pointed and talked. "Yunqing, you're here too. You're not friends with the person who hit him, are you?" A young master walked along the corridor with a cigar in his mouth. He looked at Nie Feng who was carried to the edge of the lotus pond with his head hanging down. He then looked at Mu Yunqing with a dignified face. "Young Master Long, I know him. He was originally in Qixia County. We were in the same courtyard." Mu Yunqing was anxious and uneasy. She knew that Jiang Tian had made a big trouble today. She hesitated to come forward and mediate. "Your friend's temper is quite big. He even dared to hit young Master Nie. He's in trouble. Young Master Chang is also here. The person who spoke was called Ho Longbo. In Jinling City, he was a second or third class young master. His family was involved in the automobile trade. His natural disposition was romantic. He raised a group of orioles and swallows. It could be said that he had a harem of 3,000 beauties. Which young Master Chang are you talking about? Yu Chang. Just as Mu Yunqing was frightened, suddenly, a faint voice came over. You know young Master Chang. Young Master Long looked at Jiang Tian, who asked and was slightly surprised. This boy is really getting more and more useless. I already reminded him to stay away from the Nye family's trash. Jiang Tian shook his head in disappointment. Let him come to see me. See if I don't scare him. Boy, you'd better be careful with your words. Young Master Chang is not someone you can afford to offend. Young Master Long's eyes narrowed, revealing an ominous glint. At this time, Mu Yunqing's face changed dramatically. Zhen Shuai was also trembling with fear. Oh, Yangbin's face was bitter. As for Zhen Xia's female classmates, they were too scared to interrupt. Yu Chang was a first-class young master in Jinling City. He could stand side by side with Nye family's young master Nye Mingyuan. He could suppress Chen Bo, Sun Hao, and others. His father controlled hundreds of thousands of police forces in the province. Ordinary people couldn't easily provoke him. It could be said that if he moved his mouth, Jiang Tian would die an unnatural death this time. Young Master Long, can you give me face and help me persuade young Master Chang? Mu Yunqing hesitated for a moment, but still opened her mouth. Yunqing, give you face? Young Master Long smiled, and then his face suddenly became gloomy. You're not deep enough in the circle of young masters. I'm also giving you face and reminding you not to get involved in this muddy water. Believe it or not, with just one word from young Master Chang, you won't be able to survive in Jinling City. After saying this sentence, young Master Long left Mu Yunqing, whose face changed dramatically, and walked away. Forget it, Sister Mu, this kid is a troublemaker. Don't pay attention to him. His life and death today has nothing to do with us. Zheng Xia walked to Mu Yunqing's side and softly persuaded. Everyone, keep your eyes open and be careful with your mouth. When young Master Chang comes over, don't go up to plead for Jiang Tian. Oh, Yangbin also reminded everyone. Mu Yunqing hesitated for a moment, and finally sighed softly and turned her head to the side. For a time, except for Zhen Shuai, all the children of the courtyard withdrew from the circle and drew a clear line with Jiang Tian, watching from the sidelines. Jiang Tian, when young Master Chang or Nye family comes over, you apologize to him. I'll pay for the medical expenses. Zhen Shuai advised earnestly. Endure for a while and calm the wind, and waves will be calm. If you fight with them, there won't be any good results. Don't worry, it's okay. Jiang Tian still sat there calmly, picked up the teacup and sipped. He's crazy. Seeing this, Zheng Xia and several classmates looked at Jiang Tian with contempt, as if looking at a fool. He thinks that his father is a county magistrate, but he doesn't know that in the eyes of a top young master like Yu Chang, he's nothing. Oh, Yangbin was even more disdainful and snorted, thinking that Jiang Tian was overestimating himself. Huang Linger came back to her senses and reached out to hold Jiang Tian's bleeding palm. She said distressingly, your hand is still bleeding, let me see. Jiang Tian smiled indifferently, and his face showed a heart-moving determination. His left hand was cut across the palm by the blade, and the blood was still flowing out. In fact, he deliberately got injured. This was a trick. He wanted to use this to break the deadlock between Huang Linger and him. But Huang Linger's pretty face was so nervous that there was no blood. Her beautiful eyes rippled with intoxicating tears. No, I must go to the hospital immediately. I may need a few stitches. Chapter 228. Jiang Tian smiled faintly and said, "You're exaggerating. The wound isn't deep. I have some medicinal powder. It'll be fine after I apply some." Jiang Tian took out a bottle of medicinal powder and sprinkled it on the wound. Huang Linger looked around, and finally tore off a piece of her skirt and helped Jiang Tian bandage it. Looking at Jiang Tian's left hand that was wrapped like a dumpling, Huang Linger felt an indescribable sadness in her heart. If it weren't for her, Jiang Tian wouldn't be injured. Her mind kept replaying the scene just now. Jiang Tian rushed up recklessly and blocked the opponent's blade with his hand. Her eyes couldn't help but turn red. Jiang Tian saw the subtle changes in Huang Linger's expression and said with a smile, "Don't look at me with such grateful eyes. What I owed you in the past, we're even now." "Why are we even?" Who would have thought that when Huang Linger heard this, 2 sparkling teardrops slid down her cheeks. Seeing this, Jiang Tian couldn't help but panic. "I was just joking. Don't take it seriously. I really didn't mean that." For a moment, his heart was in a mess. Previously, Jiang Tian had tried to erase all the memories of him in her mind, but he didn't succeed. The emotional wound was too deep, the roots of love were too deep, and the resentment was too heavy. Jiang Tian hoped to heal her emotional wound, but the feelings between men and women were very delicate. If he wasn't careful, Huang Linger might fall into the trap of love again. Now it seemed that there was a trend. Huang Linger gently held Jiang Tian's injured left hand with tears in her eyes. "Does it hurt?" Jiang Tian slowly shook his head. Huang Linger clasped Jiang Tian's injured left hand in her palms and said softly, "Promise me one thing. No matter what, you have to cherish yourself." Jiang Tian looked at Huang Linger's tearful eyes and his heart slightly rippled. But the next moment, he calmed down. He nodded lightly. "I promise you." This scene made Mu Yunqing even more disappointed with Jiang Tian. "You're still in the mood to drink tea and flirt with girls at a time like this?" Mu Yunqing held the phone in her hand and hesitated in her heart. Should she call her boyfriend for help? But in the end, she shook her head and rejected it. She had just come into contact with the other party, and she was making progress step by step, deliberately creating a high-end image of herself. She wanted to hang this rich husband in her hands, and finally marry into a rich family and soar into the sky. However, if he were to find out that he had such a good-for-nothing friend like Jiang Tian, who was even causing trouble because of a little girl's jealousy, then the cold, arrogant, and high-end image that he had painstakingly created would be destroyed in an instant. Right at this moment, an arrogant and despotic voice sounded. "I heard that someone said that he wanted to scare me to the ground. Where is he?" "Master Chang is here." "Yu Chang." Everyone turned around to look, and they couldn't help but go silent like cicadas in winter, and all of them retreated successively to open up a path. Yu Chang's face was red from drinking, and his body reeked of alcohol. Surrounded by several young masters, he quickly walked over. Yu Chang had been very depressed these days. On the day of Jiang Tian's birthday, he had given Jiang Tian a generous gift, but the other party had returned it. Tang Xiaozi and Bai Qiufei also said that his gift was too bad, and simply couldn't enter Master Kang's eyes. The matter of him offending Jiang Tian was not over yet. Even Guo Yinlin didn't want to pay attention to him. This made him unable to eat or sleep in peace every day. What should he do if he offended this old monster? That's right, in his eyes, Jiang Tian was an old monster. He was only in his 20s, but he could suppress Tang Xiaozi and Bai Qiufei, this kind of rich and powerful young masters, and make Chao Shixiang, this kind of big shot, treat him with courtesy. If he wasn't a monster, then what was he? He's either possessed by a demon, or he's the reincarnation of an immortal. Regarding this, Yu Chang became more and more certain. "Brat, were you the one who insulted me just now?" Yu Chang would come here every day to drink until he was dead drunk, otherwise he wouldn't be able to sleep at night. The alcohol rushed to his head, and he arrived behind Jiang Tian, slamming the table and shouting, "Do you want to die?" But suddenly, he saw Jiang Tian's face clearly, and couldn't help but be scared out of his wits, his entire body becoming dumb like a wooden chicken. Young Master Chang, I'm sorry, he drank too much today and spoke nonsense, please don't take it to heart. Zhen Shuai gathered his courage and stepped forward, continuously bowing with his hands clasped in front, speaking good words for Jiang Tian. Please let him go, we will also pay for Nie Feng's medical expenses. You can say however much you want. Jiang Tian quickly apologized to young Master Chang. At this time, everyone was looking at Jiang Tian, thinking that Jiang Tian would go with the flow, lower his head and admit defeat. Even Mu Yunqing didn't think that Jiang Tian had the courage to persist to the end. Unexpectedly, Yu Chang's legs went soft, the soles of his feet slipped, and he fell to the ground like a toad. Young Master Chang, what's wrong with you? Oh Yangbin, Ho Longbo, and the others came forward to support him. Am I so terrible? Jiang Tian laughed involuntarily. It could be said that he had never shown his real strength in front of Yu Chang. Who knew that Yu Chang, the son of an official, really knew what it meant for a top nobleman like Chao Shixiang to bow his head to Jiang Tian? The shock and horror of Jiang Tian was 10 times stronger than the average person. It was simply shocking. Jiang, Master Kong, I really didn't know it was you, otherwise, I wouldn't dare to come. Yu Chang shrank like a quail, trembling all over, looking pitiful, and his smile became exceptionally stiff. Everyone was stunned and couldn't believe it. What's going on? Jiang Tian, an abandoned son of the Jiang family, actually scared young Master Chang like this? Oh Yangbin was flabbergasted and fiercely pinched his thigh. Am I seeing things? Zheng Xia was shocked and her scalp tingled. What's going on? Is young Master Chang really scared by him? Zhen Shuai was also stunned, the smile on his face stiffened, and he looked at Jiang Tian in disbelief. Is he not bragging? Did he really kill Sun Hao? Even Mu Yunqing couldn't keep calm, and stormy waves were set off in her heart. What else is he hiding? Even if he is the crown prince of the Medicine King group, it's absolutely impossible to suppress Yu Chang. What's going on? Yu Chang, the Nie family will be finished sooner or later, don't get too close to them. Jiang Tian sipped his tea and said lightly, don't you know the truth that a gentleman doesn't stand under a dangerous wall? I understand, I understand. I didn't want to stand up for him, but I heard that someone was scolding me, so I came over. Who knew it was you, old man? It's my honor to be scolded by you. Yu Chang's pale face became even paler, cold sweat rolled down, and he couldn't wipe it clean. Well, I hit him today because Nie Feng forced my friend. If the police come, you have to say something fair. Jiang Tian's tone was indifferent. Don't worry. Master Kong, this is a small matter, I can handle it. It's just like playing around. Yu Chang patted his chest loudly. Well, I still have injuries on my hand, so I'll go first. Jiang Tian stood up and left with Huang Linger. Jiang Tian, what's the matter with you? You scared Yu Chang? Zhen Shuai followed and asked with an excited face. My mother took over the Medicine King group, probably because he was afraid of the Jiang family's power. Jiang Tian casually made up a reason. He was too lazy to say more. Some truths, even if you say it, the other party will think you're bragging. Jiang Tian's grandfather was the deputy director of the small Imperial Medical Hall, so it's possible that he knows several provincial leaders. It turns out that Aunt Xianqing is in control of the Jiang family. Jiang Tian is the crown prince of the Medicine King group. All of them nodded in agreement, and the way they looked at Jiang Tian was different from before. Jiang Tian, I'm sorry, you know, I like to joke. Zheng Xia regretted it even more. Now that Jiang Tian is the crown prince of the Medicine King group, how can Oyangbin compare? Unfortunately, she had eyes but failed to see and missed such a good opportunity. This is the advantage of power, it can even suppress Yu Chang to bow his head and admit defeat. Even Mu Yunqing has a feeling of having her eyes opened. At this moment, her heart was even more determined. This time, I must get that young master of Yang Cheng. Yes, in her opinion, Even if Jiang Tian is the crown prince of the Medicine King group, compared to her boyfriend, he is still slightly inferior. When Jiang Tian and the others walked out of the door, a pretty figure appeared at the entrance of the club, looking at Jiang Tian from a distance. Is she Master Kong? Hee, no wonder the Medicine King group is so high profile recently. Immediately, her beautiful eyes rippled with a faint murderous intent. With a voice that only she can hear, she said in a low and stern voice, "But a mountain can't have two tigers. Jinling is my Murong family's world." Zhen Shuai drove the car, accompanying Jiang Tian to send Huang Linger home. Huang Zhihui saw Jiang Tian and his daughter come in together, slightly surprised, and smiled. How did you meet Professor Jiang? Oh, I went out to eat tonight and just happened to meet Professor Jiang. We talked about the past. Huang Linger whispered. What past? You knew Professor Jiang before? Huang Zhihui gave up his seat and poured a cup of tea for Jiang Tian. He didn't dare to believe it. Speaking of which, Professor Jiang is my senior. At that time, he was in love with a girl in my class, but later broke up. When I heard his lecture, I felt that it was the case. Today, I asked him and it was indeed the case. Huang Linger whispered. Jiang Tian lamented in his heart. This girl is a natural-born liar. She can make up such a lie in the blink of an eye. What a coincidence. Huang Zhihui didn't know about the emotional entanglement between his daughter and Jiang Tian, so he asked in astonishment. Yeah, Jiang Tian awkwardly smiled. When I met Huang Linger, I wanted to ask her about her situation. In short, it's a very embarrassing past. I didn't expect Huang Linger to know me. I didn't recognize her even after a few years. Professor Jiang, have some tea. I'll have to trouble you to send this damn girl back. Huang Zhihui saw that the tea was ready and handed it to Jiang Tian. Jiang Tian quickly thanked him and took it with both hands. At this moment, Huang Linger sweetly smiled. Her beautiful eyes suddenly flashed. Professor Jiang, do you still see her as your girlfriend? Chapter 229. Jiang Tian's hand trembled and the tea spilled on the floor. He quickly changed the topic and stood up to mop the floor. He said apologetically, "Look at me, I'm so clumsy." After Jiang Tian left, Huang Zhihui hesitated for a long time before he sighed. Linger, the female classmate you just mentioned, is it you? Huang Linger stood in front of the window. She didn't expect her father to see through her thoughts. She was a little flustered and couldn't help but want to cry. She silently watched Jiang Tian and Zhen Shuai drive away. Although Huang Zhihui was obsessed with academics, he wasn't a bookworm. Some time ago, Huang Linger splashed water on Jiang Tian whenever she saw him. After Jiang Tian left, she even squatted in a corner and cried. That day when they came to apologize, they were pulled by Jiang Tian to talk. If he couldn't figure out something, then he would have lived for decades in vain. Have you been bullied by him? The veins on Huang Zhihui's forehead popped out. No, Huang Linger shook her head. Her sadness burst out like a dam bursting. She couldn't control her tears no matter how hard she tried. Then let's end the collaboration with the laboratory. Huang Zhihui gritted his teeth and said, I don't want you to be wronged. You don't have to worry about me. Even without his help at home, I can still get through it. No, Dad. Huang Linger choked with sobs. Her face was full of tears. She wiped her tears and said with a trembling but firm voice, I just didn't understand why I broke up with him. Now I understand. Maybe I'm too willful, not cute enough, not sensible enough, so he broke up with me. I'm not good enough for him. He didn't find Dad because of me, but because he valued Dad's talent. Huang Zhihui began to think that his daughter and Jiang Tian were just ordinary emotional entanglements. He felt a little better. Who hasn't been hurt in love when they were young? Although Huang Zhihui was more protective of his daughter emotionally, he was an adult man. Of course, he knew that love hurt each other. Usually, it was hard to tell who was right and who was wrong. He didn't ask any more questions. Instead, he comforted his daughter, let the past be the past. Don't think too much. Dad, do you think Jiang Tian is a bad guy? Huang Linger wiped away her tears and asked with a confused expression. Back then, after she broke up with Jiang Tian, she had also heard of Jiang Tian's many evil deeds. Fighting, brawling, messy private life, bullying men and women, running amok, and abusing others. However, men and women who had once loved each other deeply were all like this. Even if they had confirmed 1,000 times that the other party was a cold-hearted person, they could not help but think for the other party, perhaps there was another reason why he hurt me so much? Perhaps he had some unspeakable troubles back then. Huang Zhihui frowned and said, he was really an ignorant and incompetent hedonistic young master back then, but you've seen it for yourself these days. His divine power, his knowledge, his ambition. Perhaps he had something important to do back then, so he had no choice but to break up with you. Oh. Huang Linger responded. Huang Zhihui saw the sparkle in her eyes, and his heart instantly sank. As a man, he also understood that it was not a big flaw for a man to be fickle. He admired Jiang Tian's deep understanding of medicine and academics even more. However, he also hoped that his daughter would find a devoted and affectionate man. He immediately said solemnly, but the past is the past. I heard that he's married. Don't think about it anymore. Nie Zhanghai had been very depressed recently. He had long had his eyes on the Fulong Mountain plot of land and wanted to develop it into a large villa complex. It could be said to be a profitable business with little capital. Nie Zhanghai and the head of the Sun family, Sun Lingyun, were brothers-in-law. The Sun family controlled the Clear Sky Society, and the Nie family also had a large share of it. With the two families working together in the Clear Sky Society as a deterrent, the other real estate moguls did not dare to come and snatch this fat piece of meat. Therefore, the Fulong Mountain plot of land failed to be auctioned off time and time again. As a tycoon, Nie Zhanghai, who was known as Nie Bancheng, was very ambitious. His goal was to force the Jinling government to continuously lower the auction price and finally obtain this plot of land at an extremely low price. In fact, he was only halfway there. The Jinling government had no choice but to continuously lower the price of this plot of land until it reached his expectations of 10,000 yuan per square meter. However, the depressing thing was that the Medicine King Corporation suddenly appeared out of nowhere and bought this plot of land. Nie Zhanghai was caught off guard. He really could not understand how the Jiang family, which was on the verge of death, suddenly became lively again. Were they injected with chicken blood? Where did the money come from? In the study, a dim yellow light shone down. Nie Zhanghai leaned against the leather sofa with a big cigar in his mouth. His face was gloomy and there was some resentment in his eyes. He felt that he had become the biggest joke in Jinling. He had planned for 5 years and spent a lot of effort, but in the end, it was all for someone else. Suddenly, the study door was pushed open. His eldest son, Nie Mingyuan, walked in and said softly, "Father, the source of the funds has been investigated." "Who is it?" "Yi Gufeng from Jiangbei." In addition, there's also the Jiang family supported by Tang Xiaozi from Yangcheng, by Choufei, and Iron Bright Emperor. What? Nie Zhanghai could not believe it. The Jiang family was a declining family. They were already half dead after being attacked by him, the Qin family, and the Sun family. How could they have a relationship with such a powerful force? However, he believed in his son's ability. Nie Mingyuan was only in his 30s, but he was already a veteran. He was well-connected and meticulous. He had established his influence in the government and many large families. His intelligence was not wrong. That's not possible. Nie Zhanghai furrowed his brows and said, could it be that the Jiang family has become their agent? These days, the forces of Ling Nan have been making a lot of moves in Jinling. They are as powerful as a dragon. Dad, you're mistaken. Nie Mingyuan's hair was clean and his body was in good shape. His handsome face was calm and collected, giving people a sense of wisdom and shrewdness. According to my investigation, Jiang Tian is very famous in Linzhou and even the entire Lingnan city. You can say that he is the ruler of Lingnan city. That's impossible. Jiang Tian. Do you think I don't know? He is as useless as your brother Nie Feng. Nie Zhanghai shook his head and said with certainty, he's not even as good as Feng. He only knows how to fight and cause trouble. He even beat up the young master of Yanjing who broke off the engagement and was kicked out of Jinling by the Jiang family's old man. Dad, look at this video. I bought it from a tycoon in Linzhou for 30 million. Nie Mingyuan set up the projector. Soon, a video appeared on the screen. It was the video of Jiang Tian killing Xing Shanhu on the micro whale princess. Although the video was not very clear and was shaking violently, one could still see some of Jiang Tian's strength. After watching it, Nie Zhanghai's face was covered in cold sweat. After a long silence, he said, he should be a legendary martial artist. He should be. Nie Mingyuan's face also became serious. He killed Mo Haoxiong and Wei Shuofeng in Lingnan city. Now, the entire Lingnan city is under his control. Moreover, this man is sinister and cunning. He repeatedly said that the Medicine King Group's financial chain was tight. I was fooled by him. This kid is so terrifying. Nie Zhanghai sucked in a breath of cold air. His eyes flickered with a trace of ferocity as he said coldly, if he takes revenge, it will be unstoppable. Yes, Sun Hao and Chen Bo died mysteriously. I suspect that this man is behind it. Nie Mingyuan said, if he knows that the Sun family and the Chen family suppressed him under our instructions, I'm afraid that he will come for revenge. That's not possible. Nie Zhanghai said, this operation against the Jiang family is very secretive. Other than the big boss behind the scenes, only I, the two family heads of the Chen family, Sun family, and the four of us know about it. Sun Hao and Chen Bo are just following orders. They don't know about each other's actions. Jiang Tian can't even ask. Anyway, I think we have to speed up the operation against the Jiang family. Nie Mingyuan's eyes were sharp and cold. He said, if we let them grow, we will be nurturing a tiger. Well, that makes sense. Nie Zhanghai nodded. But how should we deal with the Jiang family? Nie Mingyuan smiled and said, capture the leader first. Now, the real problem for us in the Jiang family is Jiang Tian. Nie Zhanghai nodded. The target is right, but which expert should we ask for help? Father, I heard that martial artists are divided into different levels of cultivation. Iron body means that they are not afraid of cold weapons. Internal force means that they can even dodge bullets, but they may not be able to dodge continuous shots. While transcendent state means that they can resist hot weapons. Nie Mingyuan said, we can't figure out Jiang Tian's cultivation now. The top priority should be to let the Qingyun Society and the Sun family test him. Well, the Sun family will take the lead. Let's watch the battle first. Nie Zhanghai nodded with satisfaction. If Jiang Tian only has iron body or internal force, then we don't have to do anything. The Qingyun Society can kill him. They have guns. But judging from the information in the video, Jiang Tian should be a transcendent state cultivator. This kind of person is called a grandmaster in the martial arts world and is very difficult to deal with. What if he really is a transcendent state cultivator? Nie Mingyuan asked with a serious face. If he really is a transcendent state cultivator, Nie Zhanghai's face showed a hint of fear. After a long silence, he sighed and said, I'm afraid we can only ask for help from that big shot. Are you talking about the martial arts elderly Chunfeng? Nie Mingyuan was shocked and asked. That's right. I spent a lot of effort to send your aunt to Li Chunfeng. Nodding his head, a smug expression appeared on Nie Zhanghai's face as he sighed. Ever since the emergence of nuclear weapons in the 1960s, all the martial arts experts went into hibernation, and Wudang's sect became a semi-hidden sect that no one knows about. But Wu Dang is very powerful. It alone can suppress the entire Huaxiaolong formation. Li Chunfeng is also one of the 4 elders of Wu Dang. As far as I know, his strength is comparable to Yi Zhantian. Father, this plan of yours is simply too perfect. Auntie must be very powerful now, right? Nie Mingyuan couldn't help but think of that sweet and charming smiling face, that graceful and sexy figure, and his heart rippled. She has always been in seclusion. I only talked to her once 3 years ago. At that time, she had already reached the peak of transcendent state. Nie Zhanghai's face showed a hint of arrogance as a cold light flashed in his eyes. Many people thought that the Nie family was just an ordinary family. However, since the Nie family had dominated the Jin city for so many years, they must have had some powerful backing. Although the Nie family was a secular family, they had the support of the Wu Dang sect. Otherwise, the Nie family would have fallen apart a long time ago. However, the Wu Dang sect was beyond the reach of worldly affairs. Therefore, Nie Zhanghai didn't use this connection under normal circumstances. However, if he asked the Wu Dang sect to deal with Jiang Tian, he would be killed in a matter of minutes. Chapter 230. The phone on the desk suddenly rang, startling the 2 people who were plotting. Nie Zhanghai picked it up and his face suddenly changed. He stood up and said, "What?" Nie Feng was injured by Jiang Tian. Nie Zhanghai rushed to Jinling First People's Hospital. Seeing Nie Feng's situation, Nie Zhanghai's heart ached. He was so angry that he almost exploded on the spot. Young Master Nie's situation isn't optimistic. 5 of his ribs were broken. We did our best to restore them. It's not a big problem. The problem is that young Master Nie's penis was also broken. We searched his clothes and the site of the incident for a long time, but we only found some pieces of flesh. We can't piece them back together. This may affect young Master Nie's sexual function and fertility. I'm afraid he won't be able to do it in the future. Despair and anger completely shrouded his body and mind. Nie Zhanghai didn't seem to hear the doctor's report. It was as if the whole world disappeared. All that was left in his eyes was his dying son lying on the hospital bed. Nie Zhanghai's head was dizzy and he couldn't stand steadily. Fortunately, Nie Mingyuan supported him in time. "Dad, my condolences." Nie Zhanghai finally calmed down. He wiped his tears and walked into the ward. Looking at his son who was wearing an oxygen mask, he smiled and said, "Xiao Feng, rest assured. The doctor said you'll be fine. You'll get better." "Dad, don't lie to me." Nie Feng looked at the ceiling in despair and emptiness. Tears rolled down his temples as he weakly said, "I know. My penis is gone. I've become a eunuch. In the future, I can't fuck women anymore. I can't have children either." Nie Zhanghai was angry. Why didn't these doctors know to keep the news secret? What if Nie Feng took it too hard and committed suicide? "Dad." Nie Feng choked. "Hey." Nie Zhanghai quickly responded. "Don't worry, I won't take it too hard. I'll take revenge. I'll ruthlessly take revenge. I'll make Jiang Tian suffer a fate worse than death. I'll tear him into pieces. I'll find hundreds of strong men to rape all the women in the Jiang family." Nie Feng's originally dim eyes gradually lit up. It was a fierce light, like a fierce tiger or wolf that was about to devour a person. Nie Zhanghai felt a chill in his heart. "Little brother, don't worry." Nie Mingyuan's eyes reddened as he said with a murderous look, "We can't just let this go. Dad and I will definitely avenge you. You don't have to worry." In the eyes of outsiders, Nie Feng was just a scoundrel young master. There were even rumors that he had fallen out with his brothers because of power struggles. However, the Nie family knew that Nie Feng and Nie Mingyuan were closer than ordinary brothers. They lost their mother when they were young and lived on the streets. They relied on stealing and helping each other to grow up. However, after the Nie family grew stronger, Nie Feng, on the other hand, single-handedly took over all of the Nie family's shady businesses. He committed all sorts of crimes, such as murder, robbery, kidnapping, and extortion, and became Nie Mingyuan's right-hand man. When Jiang Tian is killed, I must be there. I want to see him die with my own eyes. Nie Feng spoke word by word with monstrous hatred. At this moment, the secretary walked in and said in a low voice, "Miss Su Ruoqing from the Su family is here to visit young Master Nie. Please come in." Nie Zhanghai's face turned cold when he heard this name. He shouldn't be negligent and had already gone to the door to welcome her. The Su family of Jinling had a very mysterious background. They didn't seem to be conspicuous, but they controlled more than half of the underground world of Jinling. They could suppress the Green Cloud Society, and the Su family had stood for hundreds of years without falling. However, Nie Zhanghai knew clearly that the Su family was a legitimate martial arts family. Their family head, Su Zhenlei, was rumored to have reached the transcendent state. However, he had been in seclusion for years. He must have improved his cultivation. How could he offend such a transcendent power? Uncle Nie. Su Ruoqing saluted politely as soon as she entered the door. She was about 30 years old. She had a beautiful face, a voluptuous chest, a slender waist, and a perky butt. She was tall and exquisite and had a seductive temperament. If she walked on the street, she would definitely make men turn their heads. However, when she blinked, her eyes burst with light and filled with an extremely faint but awe-inspiring murderous aura. Even Nie Zhanghai, the old fox, had to be cautious. After a few simple greetings, Su Ruoqing said softly, "I think the Nie family has also heard the news that Jiang Tian is a martial arts master." "Yes, Miss Su, have you also heard of it?" Nie Zhanghai also hoped to get some information about Jiang Tian from Su Ruoqing. This person has made a name for himself in Lingnan. How can I not know? Su Ruoqing said with a faint smile. Nie Zhanghai's heart sank. It seemed that those rumors were true. Su Ruoqing said indifferently, "It's just that I think the legend about Jiang Tian might be exaggerated. Or perhaps, his cultivation has already dropped." "How can you tell that his cultivation has decreased?" Nie Zhanghai frowned. "Ha, it's too simple." Su Ruoqing said with some disdain, "Tonight, I saw with my own eyes at the Shisha Club that his palm was cut by Nie Feng's bodyguard with a knife. A person at the peak of iron body is not afraid of cold weapons, but Jiang Tian was injured. This is enough to explain everything. His cultivation can decrease. How is that possible?" The father and son of the Nie family couldn't believe it. Of course. Being injured, poisoned, or using improper methods to cultivate can cause a decrease in one's cultivation. Su Ruoqing smiled faintly, which had a charm to it. It is said that Jiang Tian defeated many masters in the martial arts world and won every battle. However, there is no such thing as absolute suppression in a fight between martial artists. He must have been injured. The father and son of the Nie family were skeptical. Su Ruoqing's cheeks rippled with beautiful dimples. She smiled faintly and said, "Uncle Nie, it is said that Jiang Tian's medical skills are also good. He should be able to recover in a month or two. You should take his life while he is sick. You can't hesitate anymore." "Okay, thank you for your reminder, Miss Su. I will definitely consider your suggestion carefully." Nie Zhanghai said with a fist salute. Su Ruoqing got into the Mercedes-Benz business car and drove out of the hospital. She picked up a glass of red wine from the car's fridge and took a sip. Her eyes flashed with a cold light as she smiled faintly. When Jiang Tian leads the forces of Lingnan to fight with the Nie family, Sun family, and Qin family of Jinling, and when both sides suffer, it will be the day my father comes out of seclusion. At that time, the Su family will brazenly draw their swords and unite Jinling. Sunday, June 1, 2008. However, the staff of the laboratory were not resting. They nervously clustered around Jiang Tian as they stood in the laboratory on the 5th floor of the Jinling Medical University's Science and Technology building. They were waiting for the first batch of pills to come out. I don't know if it will work. Huang Zhihui's forehead was covered in sweat. He was so nervous that his face was pale. Professor Huang, don't worry. With Professor Zhang's guidance, these reactor cauldrons will definitely work. Lin Manong was also nervous, but she comforted him with a sweet smile. The laboratory was more than 1,000 square meters in size and had 5 rows of production lines. Each row was made up of a dozen oddly shaped reactor cauldrons and pipes. These reactor cauldrons were the embodiment of the wisdom of Jiang Tian, Huang Zhihui, and dozens of other professors and postdocs. These 5 rows of production lines were used to produce the Black Jade Rejuvenation Pill, which was used to treat external injuries, the Rising Dragon Energy Pill, which was used to improve the body's constitution, the Small Recovery Pill, which was used to strengthen the body and cure all kinds of diseases, and the Detoxification Pill, which was used to restrain poison. It could be said that once any of these pills were brought out, it would be earth-shattering and earth-shattering. When the spiritual herbs and herbs were stuffed into the first reactor cauldron, the reactor began to roar and tremble slightly. The flames also began to burn and lick the bottom of the reactor cauldron. Then, clouds of mist rose from the reactor cauldron and condensed into a colorful liquid that flowed into the slender glass tubes. The liquid was very light at first, but it gradually condensed until it looked like a sparkling gem. In short, the principles of the spiritual cauldrons that Jiang Tian knew were applied to the materials and knowledge of physics and chemistry on Earth to create these reactor cauldrons and realize the mass production of pills. Spiritual cauldrons, or spiritual stoves for short, possessed spirituality. The spirit of the cauldron, also known as the cauldron god, could gather the energy of heaven and earth to automatically refine pills. Although these reactor cauldrons had been simplified and were made with special materials from Earth, they were not as effective as spiritual stoves. However, after being created by Jiang Tian and Huang Zhihui, they were able to turn something rotten into something miraculous. They were 70 to 80% effective, which already made Jiang Tian very satisfied. Of course, the core components of the reactor cauldrons, which Jiang Tian called furnace cores, were personally carved by Jiang Tian. Furthermore, Jiang Tian had poured his true essence into them. They could convert ordinary fire energy into spiritual energy and extract all the spiritual energy from spiritual herbs and herbs. Just the design and carving of these furnace cores took Jiang Tian 2 to 3 months. Jiang Tian believed that apart from him, there was no one else in the world who could create them. Even the world's top high-tech companies would not be able to copy them. 10 minutes later. Clang! 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 With a light sound, red pills fell into the vessel, emitting a delicate fragrance. Professor Jiang, please take a look at the effects. Huang Zhihui's face was bitter as he trembled, as if he was a prisoner waiting for the judge to sentence him. Okay. Jiang Tian nodded. He walked forward with a calm expression, grabbed a handful of pills, and scanned them with his divine sense. Professor Jiang, how is it? Seeing Jiang Tian's expressionless face, Huang Zhihui and Lin Manong were nervous and uneasy. Their hearts were beating like drums. Jiang Tian was silent for a moment before finally revealing a gratified smile. It's a success. These tyrant body spirit pills have 1/10 of the efficacy of the ones I personally refined. It's finally a success. Everyone cheered. Everyone was trembling with excitement. Some raised their arms and cheered. Some jumped and jumped like children. Some female researchers even shed hot tears. It had been 4 months since the establishment of the laboratory. Many days and nights had passed. Everyone had worked overtime in the office to change the design drawings. Many researchers had forgotten to eat and accompany their families because of the experiments. They had failed time and time again, and had to start from scratch again. They had fallen time and time again, wiped their tears and got up again. They had experienced disappointment and helpless sighs, but they had clenched their fists and told themselves that they could do it. At this moment, all of those thoughts had turned into hot tears that flowed freely. It's a success. Huang Zhihui stood there in a daze, unable to believe it. Professor Huang, without your theory, our research would not have succeeded. Jiang Tian walked over and held his hand. He raised his arm and said. Chapter 231. Huang Zhihui was a little surprised. He saw a smile on Jiang Tian's face, and it was very real. Professor Huang, you have to shoulder the future of Chinese medicine. When Huang Zhihui heard Jiang Tian say this, the noise in his ears gradually disappeared, leaving only a silent scene. He saw Jiang Tian let go of his hand and slowly walk out of the laboratory with his hands behind his back. He was the only one left standing there with his arms raised high, welcoming the cheers and congratulations from all directions. Without your guidance, I wouldn't have succeeded. You are the biggest contributor. Huang Zhihui looked at Jiang Tian's back and muttered in confusion. Professor Huang, these experiments strongly prove that your theory and technology of ultramicromolecular extraction is correct. I believe that in 3 years, the Nobel Prize in Medicine will fall into your bag. Lin Manong was excited as she waved her fist vigorously. Professor Huang, you succeeded. Countless professors and scholars surrounded Huang Zhihui in the middle, clapping and cheering. They even lifted him up and threw him high up, caught him, and threw him up again. Huang Zhihui, who was thrown high up, turned his head and looked at Jiang Tian, who was gradually disappearing from the door. His solitary figure was sometimes high and sometimes low, sometimes close and sometimes far away, and the afterglow and light that enveloped him also flickered between brightness and darkness. In an instant, Huang Zhihui's face was covered in tears. That night, at the celebration banquet, Jiang Tian raised his wine glass and announced a piece of news. Everyone, from today onwards, I will no longer work at Jinling Pharmaceutical University. I have already submitted my resignation letter. In the future, my life science and futurology class will be taught by Professor Huang Zhihui. In an instant, everyone was stunned. Professor Jiang, how can you leave? Huang Zhihui held Jiang Tian's hand and said excitedly. Yes, we can't leave you. Everyone spoke out to persuade him to stay. My ambition is not here. Jiang Tian smiled and said, building this laboratory was only to fulfill my mother's wish and the Jiang family's wish. Now that the laboratory is successful, my mission is complete. As for the rest, you just need to cooperate with the Medicine King Group to mass-produce the laboratory. You don't need me for this part. I didn't expect Professor Jiang to leave so soon. Everyone knew that Jiang Tian was a man of his word, so they didn't dare to persuade him anymore. However, they all sighed in disappointment. These days, they had interacted with Jiang Tian day and night, and they already knew how profound Jiang Tian's education was. It could be said that they had never seen or heard of Jiang Tian's theories before. They were completely ahead of their time. In the process of designing, experimenting, and modifying the production line, the epiphany brought to them by Jiang Tian's casual advice was even greater than what they had gained after years of research. Over the past few months, Jiang Tian's academic standards had made them look up to him with admiration. It was as if he had opened the door to a new world for them. Huang Zhihui said excitedly, Professor Jiang, during the process of building the production line, I've completed 3 papers and passed the review of Nature's academic committee. When it's published, I will list you as the first author. What? Passed the review of Nature? It's about to be published. Many scholars were shocked and envious. In the 19th century, there was a famous scientific group in England called the X Club. It was composed of 9 people, including Huxley. Other than the philosopher Herbert Spencer, the other 8 were members of the Royal Society. They founded Nature, and in recent years, its status in the academic world had been constantly rising. It even surpassed American Scientist. Nature had a mythical status in the academic world. publishing an article in it was very important. Not only did it mean honor, but it also greatly helped in promotion and selection. As long as one article was published, it would be more than enough to become the principal of a key university in Huaxia. If 3 articles were published together, it would be a special topic. Basically, it would be a popular candidate for the Nobel Prize the following year. Professor Huang, I appreciate your kindness, but it's okay. These are all burdens for me. Don't do these, I'm very annoyed. Jiang Tian gently shook his head and politely refused. Everyone couldn't believe it, but everyone could see that his eyes were exceptionally firm. He was not being polite or joking. Professor Jiang, won't we see you again in the future? Lin Manong asked reluctantly, her eyes slightly red. For a moment, everyone looked at Jiang Tian sadly, like a group of resentful women who had been abandoned. Don't look at me so lovingly. Jiang Tian felt a chill run down his spine from their gazes, and he shivered. TSK. Lin Manong rolled her eyes at him. Right, I was just about to talk about the laboratory. Jiang Tian said seriously, Manong, you'll be the deputy director of the laboratory in the future. Don't be too proud. You'll just be Professor Huang's assistant. Really? Lin Manong was overjoyed. She had struck gold. There were only a few universities in Huaxia that had invested hundreds of millions in a laboratory. Back then, her mentor had been poached by a university with a laboratory that invested 7 million, and even she had been left behind. But now, she had become the deputy director of the Fairsky laboratory and had control of hundreds of millions in research funds. Moreover, her annual salary was in the hundreds of thousands. She had reached the top in a single bound. Although I'm no longer teaching, I'll still come to the laboratory occasionally to take a look. Everyone can still see me. I hope everyone will learn something and gain something from it. After Jiang Tian toasted the last cup of wine, he prepared to leave. At that moment, his phone suddenly rang. Jiang Tian saw that it was Huang Linger calling. He picked up the phone and said hello. However, there was no sound from the other party. Just as Jiang Tian was wondering if Huang Linger had accidentally dialed the wrong number, a deep voice came from the phone. Jiang Tian. It's you. Jiang Tian's memory was amazing. He could already tell that the voice belonged to Nie Feng. He instantly had a bad feeling. Actually, I didn't call for anything. I just wanted to let you know that I'm safe. Nie Feng's tone was still so strange that he sounded like an old eunuch. You guys eat slowly. I still have things to do. Jiang Tian raised his hand and made a, don't send me off, gesture to them. Then, he quickly walked out. Where is Huang Linger? The moment he left the restaurant, Jiang Tian's voice seemed to come from the depths of hell. Cold and stern. Huang Linger. Oh, she's with me. I borrowed her phone to call you. I'll return it to her later. I'm warning you. If you dare to touch a strand of her hair, I'll let you understand what it means to be skinned alive. Jiang Tian angrily shouted. In an instant, the cement floor under Jiang Tian's feet actually cracked. The spider web-like crack spread out more than a meter away. It was a shocking sight. At this moment, his sleeves fluttered. A strong murderous aura spread out in all directions. Once the leaves from the trees entered this range, they were shaken into fine powder. It can be said that Jiang Tian was full of guilt toward Huang Linger. In his previous life, he had promised Huang Linger 2 million yuan as a maintenance fee, which was why she had dared to borrow Nie Feng's money to buy equipment for her father. Later on, Jiang Tian heartlessly abandoned her and did not fulfill his promise, which caused Huang Linger to fall into the abyss of debt and be consigned to eternal damnation. Jiang Tian's heartlessness caused her to suffer from depression. He broke his promise and pushed her into the vortex of debt. In short, if she did not meet Jiang Tian, she would have lived a happy and stable life. Although Jiang Tian was very loyal to Qinger and would not have any feelings for Huang Linger. But from the day he saw Huang Linger, he secretly vowed that he would protect her like a sister. He would never allow anyone to hurt her. On the other side of the phone, Nie Feng chuckled. Don't worry. I'm just chatting with her about returning the money. I'll let her talk to you. Jiang Tian turned the phone to the loudest. But after listening for a while, he could only hear a rustling sound. He could not hear any movement from the other side. Pa! A crisp sound suddenly sounded. Immediately after, Nie Feng's threatening voice came from the other side of the phone. Speak, you smelly bitch. However, after his voice fell, there was still no sound from the other side of the phone. It was as if Nie Feng was talking to the air. Jiang Tian waited for a while, but still did not hear any movement. But then, there was a pa sound from the other side of the phone. I'm fucking telling you to speak. Nie Feng's fierce voice sounded again. The more Jiang Tian listened, the more he felt that something was wrong. He quickly shouted on the phone, Linger. Huang Linger, are you okay? On the other side of the phone. Huang Linger was sitting on the sofa. Her hands were tied behind her back. Her cheeks were red and swollen from the beating. Blood kept flowing from the corner of her mouth. The protective jade talisman on her wrist had been broken. This jade talisman had taken many beatings and injuries for her. If not for these protective jade talismans, she might have died. Originally, Nie Feng wanted to kill Huang Linger first and then kill Jiang Tian. But after seeing this, he simply called Jiang Tian over to kill them together. Behind Nie Feng stood a row of burly men. Each of them looked ferocious. Nie Feng kept beating and threatening her to talk to Jiang Tian. But Huang Linger just sat there calmly and firmly. No matter how Nie Feng beat her, she did not make a sound. Fuck, I really admire you, you little bitch. You can even sell your body for affection. How cheap are you? Speak, let him come and save you. Otherwise, I'll kill you immediately. Nie Feng used all his strength to pull Huang Linger's hair and fiercely threatened her. Huang Linger's feet were fixed to the sofa legs. She could not move. A strand of her hair was pulled down by Nie Feng. Huang Linger finally let out a scream. Perhaps realizing that her voice was heard by Jiang Tian, Huang Linger did not force herself. She opened her mouth and shouted, Jiang Tian, don't come. They have guns. Call the police. Call the police. Nie Feng slapped Huang Linger's face and angrily said, Smelly bitch, you still dare to play tricks. Seal her mouth with tape. Jiang Tian, you also know that calling the police is useless. Nie Feng no longer paid attention to Huang Linger. He said to the phone in a strange tone, My Nie family has thousands of men of sacrifice. If the police catch me, I can casually find someone to take the blame. But when the police come, she will definitely die. Don't worry. I'll go alone. Jiang Tian's eyes suddenly turned cold. His feet stomped on the ground. Like an angry dragon, he shot into the sky and jumped to the roof of a building. Then his figure was like an arrow, carrying an incomparably fierce killing intent. He flew over the city's sky and burst into the distance. Chapter 232. Damn it, this kid won't come, right? I haven't even said where we are, and he hung up the phone. Nie Feng scolded. Huang Linger's heart sank, her nose felt sour, and there were sparkling tears gathering in her eyes. He probably won't come, right? Yes, I heard that his wife is very capable and is the chairman of the Zhao Pharmaceutical Company. She is beautiful, considerate, and sensible. Why would he care about me? I'm just a plaything he had on a whim. She didn't want Jiang Tian to come, but for some reason, she was very disappointed when she found out that Jiang Tian really wasn't coming. Coward. Nie Feng shook his head and walked to the window with a depressed face. He looked at the terrain outside and thought about his arrangements. Nie Feng was indeed worthy of being in the Qingyun society for a few years. He chose a good place to kill people and throw away corpses. This was a famous unfinished building in the Jinling Economic Development Zone. The main body of the building was half repaired, but the outer wall and other projects were not done. The owner of this factory was originally a Hong Kong man. He planned to build a chip factory, but for some reason, the factory was not built. The office building was only half built, and he ran away. Maybe in this era, chips really didn't make money in Huaxia. Because it had been deserted for 3 or 4 years, this factory was overgrown with weeds, wild dogs and cats ran everywhere, and the office building looked more and more decadent. A year ago, someone jumped off a building and committed suicide in this place. There were all kinds of urban legends about ghosts, so ordinary people didn't have the courage to step in. Kill 1 or 2 people, pour gasoline on them, and destroy the corpses. The police wouldn't find out at all. In fact, Nie Feng had been waiting for his father and brother to take revenge on Jiang Tian. But after waiting for 3 months, they didn't make a move, so he decided to do it himself. Jiang Tian's whereabouts were mysterious, and it was difficult to find out where he lived. When he was at the Jinling Pharmaceutical University, he always appeared in groups. In for a penny, in for a pound, he might as well kidnap Huang Linger, who had a close relationship with Jiang Tian, to lure the snake out of its hole. Little Feng, this little girl's skin is really tasty. After all, she was exploited by Jiang Tian when they were in university. Sun Lingyu was in his 40s. He was tall, but there was a scar on his face that looked like an earthworm. It ran diagonally from his left eyebrow to his right cheek, giving him a fierce aura. He turned his head to look at Huang Linger, who was sitting on the sofa. His eyes were burning with greed as he grinned. I, Sun Lao-san, have played with so many college students over the years, but I have never seen such a beautiful one. I really want to have a taste of him. Come on, third master. If you want to play, you can do whatever you want after we get rid of Jiang Tian. Don't get in the way of business. Nie Feng shook his head and then looked at Huang Linger strangely. This girl is strange. Yes, before this, their subordinates also wanted to beat and violate Huang Linger several times, but they were all inexplicably sent flying. One of them even had a broken rib. Later, he gradually recovered, but this made Nie Feng puzzled. What's so great about that Jiang Tian? I know him. He's just a trash. Sun Lingyu said disdainfully. I remember that about 5 or 6 years ago, when he was still in university, I met him at a bar in Xindi. That female boss was quite coquettish. You also know that I had her for a while. Jiang Tian, this reckless guy, was flirting with her. I just happened to go over and gave him 3 big slaps. He didn't even dare to fart and silently left. Ha, come on. That was back then. Nie Feng rolled his eyes at him and said with furrowed brows, this Jiang Tian is also very strange. That day at the Shisha Juniors clubhouse, I was sent flying over 8 meters with a kick from him, and several of my ribs were broken. And several of my subordinates were not his match. This guy is definitely a martial artist. Martial artist? No matter how strong he is, can he be stronger than a pistol? Even if he can block a pistol, can he block a Barrett? Sun Lingyu smiled proudly. Barrett, what's the concept? Hee, I played with it once. With one shot, half of a person's bones would be shattered. Even if his whole body was made of iron, how many nails could he crush? Although according to Su Ruocheng, Jiang Tian's cultivation had dropped greatly, Nie Feng was not a reckless person. He still made the most thorough preparations. This time, he asked the current president of the Qingyun Association, Sun Hao's uncle, Sun Lingyu, the younger brother of the Sun family's patriarch, Sun Lingyun, to personally help. Last winter, Sun Hao had mysteriously disappeared. According to the secretary, that night, Sun Hao wanted to see the son of Xixia Pharmaceutical Factory's Zhang Wanqing, Jiang Tian. But that night, he disappeared without a trace. Tang Xiaozi, who went with him that night, said that Sun Hao had been kidnapped by a group of foreigners. However, the Sun family called the police and checked the surveillance cameras. The Qingyun Association also searched the area around the Fengyi brothel, but they did not find any suspicious vehicles or people. Most importantly, the owner of the Fengyi brothel also ran away in the middle of the night and could not be contacted. Later, there was news that the Jiang family had joined forces with Tang Xiaozi and other powers in Yangqing to take the hidden Dragon Mountain land. Furthermore, they also learned from the Nie family that Jiang Tian was a martial arts expert. The Sun family were not fools. After thinking about it, they realized that Sun Hao's disappearance was most likely related to Jiang Tian. Sun Lingyun hated Jiang Tian to the bone. How could he not avenge his son's death? Therefore, he had spent a lot of money on this operation. Not only did the Qingyun Association's experts come out in full force, but they also invited 3 ace snipers from abroad, equipped with Barrett sniper rifles. They wanted to beat Jiang Tian to death. Do you know what a martial artist is? She's an existence like my aunt. Nie Feng said solemnly. I once saw her catch a bullet with her bare hands. She's like a god. A martial artist, is really that powerful? How is that possible? Sun Lingyu couldn't believe it, his eyes filled with shock. Logically speaking, Jiang Tian definitely had this ability. But now that Jiang Tian's cultivation has declined, guns should be able to kill him. Nie Feng's eyes flashed with a cold light. He laughed sinisterly. This is also our best chance to deal with him. In short, don't let your guard down. This is a rare opportunity. We've arranged for sharpshooters this time. There won't be any problems. I'm just afraid that he won't dare to come. Sun Lingyu said. Third Master, young Master Nie, that kid is here. Suddenly, the voice of a hidden sentry came from the microphone. This sentry was located on the roof of a neighboring building and could overlook the entire factory area. A tall figure quickly appeared in the dilapidated building, which was leaking air everywhere. Jiang Tian. Woo. The moment she saw Jiang Tian, Huang Linger desperately shook her head and shouted. But her mouth was taped, so she could only make vague sounds. Her eyes were full of anxiety and despair. Jiang Tian saw that her body was covered with scars, her hair was disheveled, and her eyes were filled with pain and despair. Obviously, she had suffered a lot of shock. Jiang Tian's heart suddenly clenched. Sorry, I'm late. On the empty floor, aluminum window frames, concrete blocks, cement bags, and steel cages were placed in a mess. It was already late at night, but several miners' lamps on the floor shot light beams onto the ceiling. There were mosquitoes and insects flying around the lamp posts. Jiang Tian was 100 meters away from Huang Linger, but he could still hear her vague whimpers. Huang Linger desperately twisted her body and shook her head. She tried to use her eyes to drive away the figure that was approaching her. But her mouth was firmly taped, so she couldn't make a sound. In despair, her tears fell down. Jiang Tian actually came alone. He didn't call the police. Huang Linger was moved and desperate at the same time. She just saw that they had arranged gunmen. There were at least 7 or 8 guns in the building. There were also 3 snipers on the top of the office building outside. What was the use of Jiang Tian coming here alone? How could he be a match for them? But she was very strange. She was actually moved. It was the kind of heart-wrenching feeling. She used to hate him so much. Now, her life was in danger, but she still didn't want to see him come and see him in trouble. Jiang Tian, I really didn't expect you to be such a sentimental person. For your little lover, you didn't hesitate to come alone. You really have guts. Suddenly, Nie Feng was stunned for a moment, and then he laughed loudly. His laughter was full of hatred and hostility. His voice was sharp and hoarse, like a sharp glass cutting through an iron pot. It was especially ear-piercing. What are you afraid of? Jiang Tian's eyes were indifferent. He looked at him with disdain. It's just a few fire sticks. Do you think you can hurt me? Seeing Jiang Tian so confident and even aware of the existence of the gunman, Nie Feng was stunned for a moment. But soon, as if he had heard a big joke, he looked up to the sky and laughed. Ha, you're really crazy. I know you're a master, but your cultivation has dropped a lot. Last time, my bodyguard cut your palm. Can you still withstand the fire gun? It's funny. Just when Nie Feng was laughing, Sun Lingyu, who was standing next to him, had a sharp look in his eyes. He made a shooting gesture with his hands behind his back to the 7 or 8 gunmen. Strategically, he despised the enemy. Tactically, he valued the enemy. Sun Lingyu, who made his debut at the age of 18, could be said to be an old man. In those years, Qingyun society was founded by him. After Sun Hao disappeared, he came out of the mountain again to control it. Sun Lingyu naturally understood the principle of a lion using all its strength to catch a rabbit. Jiang Tian, this guy, dared to come alone. If his head wasn't broken, then he must have something to rely on. What's more, Jiang Tian was rumored to have some skills. If he didn't treat it carefully, he might fail miserably. It was a pistol. Huang Linger saw that following Sun Lingyu's gesture, the 7 or 8 gunmen pulled out their pistols from their bulging waists. In an instant, Huang Linger's tears were like a dam bursting. Crystal clear tears surged out and covered her face. She wanted to remind Jiang Tian so much, but she couldn't make a sound and couldn't make a gesture. So hateful. So hateful. Huang Linger could only desperately open her eyes and blink. She used her eyes to remind Jiang Tian to run. However, she saw through her blurry tearful eyes that Jiang Tian's eyes were very calm. There was even a little pity. Close your eyes. When Jiang Tian said this, the gunman nicknamed Black Skin in Qingyun society had already pulled out his pistol at the fastest speed. He aimed at Jiang Tian and took the lead to pull the trigger to the end, brazenly shooting. You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.